Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, and so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show. Booyah.
There are a few things in life better than a Friday before a 3-day weekend.
You got
Am I
that right. You got that right.
Am I right?
I forgot it's Memorial Day.
Memorial Day is on Monday.
Steve said he's going to Florida this weekend. I'm like, oh, so you're going to miss a show Monday. He's like, there is no show. He's like, oh,
No
yeah, it's
show.
Memorial Day.
No show on Monday.
No show
so just
Monday.
plan accordingly.
Official.
You shouldn't be watching us on Monday anyhow.
That's
It's going
right.
to be a beautiful day. It's a holiday.
Go cook
out
something.
and enjoy the gorgeous weather. Welcome to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Interesting panel today. I say interesting because producer Earl is now Earl the host.
Earl the
What
Pearl
up, brother?
Is in the host seat. Hey, I don't know how this works. I just want to say a couple things before we get started.
Get it off your chest.
One thing serious, one thing semi-serious, semi-funny. First and foremost, Steve, you said this is the camera. Child support. This is just a cameo. I am not here for real. So before you go making any adjustments, this is just a cameo. We ain't arrived yet. But
Don't go adjusting your monthly yet.
don't go adjusting the monthly yet.
I got you.
Talked to one of my family members, and one of the things that we talked about as I grow up as a professional,
Yeah.
the fan in me is dying, right?
It
But
does.
I could go back to when I was a fan, watching you on ESPN, knowing that you were from Northeast Ohio. You were my favorite.
Thank you,
When
sir.
I knew this was something I wanted to do, everybody could read articles on ESPN to CBS. I would pay for The Athletic to read Jason's articles to separate myself. You
Well
were my
done.
favorite. Now y'all my guys. and
That's
I'm
a good
sitting on the
career
site.
choice for you.
Yeah, I'm sitting on the set with my guys.
That's
man.
right.
So,
Yeah.
let's do this.
Pinch yourself. It's real.
Yeah, it's
and we
real.
won't let that go to our heads.
Yeah,
Absolutely not.
it's real though.
But the fan in you, I'm dead inside.
It's
So,
dying. It's
yeah.
like people be asking me, "What you think about this?" I'm like, I don't.
It
I don't
happens.
know.
You've been doing it 20
years,
Yeah,
almost 25
I'm 36 years in the game.
I'll be 2 years in July.
You got a long way to go before all those fan cells are completely dead.
Yeah.
And I marvel at how Jason can just be like, nope, it's a job. I'm disconnected.
Yeah, I don't care.
I could never do that. I still can't. I'm a fan. Fans root.
Yeah.
I had to root internally when I'm sitting in press boxes of World Series games. I can't jump up and scream when the Indians hit a home run. But I never stop rooting. And the pain is real when they lose. I hope for your sake, because I know how much you love this, that you never wash that out of you completely.
Yeah, I hope not.
Because the way we know we're still alive is when we feel the pain of a Game 7 loss.
Yeah.
And the way we know that we're alive is when we feel the exhilaration and the excitement of a Game 7 win.
Speaking of that, there's no cheering in press boxes. I think
None.
most people know that, but it's still odd for fans to see glimpses of press box video and everyone's just sitting there like corpses.
I know.
But
it really is odd.
when Rajay hit the home run in 2016, the press box even was like this gasp, this audible
Yeah, I bet.
of, oh my God, what just happened?
That
What did we
just
just,
happened,
like, there
yeah.
are still moments where even the dead press come to life and go, wow,
Yeah.
I can't believe we just saw that.
Have you guys ever seen someone physically get kicked out of a press box for
I've
cheering?
seen someone threaten to get kicked
Yeah.
out. They usually will warn you.
They make an announcement.
Yeah.
This is a working
And,
area.
and usually when it happens, you know who it's for. And everybody looks at them, and then, that's it. I've never seen a second, I've never seen that person who'd been warned erupt again and then get tossed.
Get a yellow
But
card.
It looks like you
I
have.
have, and it was the funniest thing. So at A&M, we get one field pass to shoot the game. So
Yeah.
me and Justin, another sports guy, we'd switch. One of us would be in the press box, one would be on the field shooting. They were playing Ole Miss. Elijah Moore is actually on that team. And Ole Miss, there's not a huge Ole Miss media contingent.
Right.
But a few of them traveled, and they took the opening kickoff back to the 4-yard line. And this was a must-win game for they had to win this game to stay in the SEC West hunt. And no joke, 7 seconds into the game, an Ole Miss reporter gave a yes, let's go, and 2 little claps, and they just carried his ass out. It was
Wow,
immediate.
Zero
it was the
tolerance.
A&M is harsh.
Oh, you gotta go,
It was
fam.
the most cordial, you got to get the F out of here ever, because it was 2 old 85-year-old security guards. If this dude had any resistance and wanted to start
Yeah,
a scene, he
they're
could have
going
kicked the crap
down.
out of both of them. But he was just fine, I guess.
Can
and
you
just,
imagine
slowly
telling your
walked
editor
out.
or your boss or whomever
I got kicked
that
out.
I know we spent cash to send me to College Station to cover this game, but I only saw 8 seconds of the game.
Literally, it's like the second play, first or second.
I mean,
play.
I got to be honest. The SEC to me is not a bastion of journalism. Like I think,
Yeah, that's why I'm
like,
most surprised.
right? Like, come on, man. They're
They're
all
not a
bunch
bastion of
They're all
anything.
fanboys in there. Are
Yeah,
they not?
they really
Like,
are. It's the SEC by far of all the leagues. That's the one.
I mean, that
where
was a stereotypical broad brush I try not to do, but I mean, it's the SEC.
it's
Come
pretty
on.
obvious.
No, you're right.
Yeah,
You're right.
All right, busy show today. We're going to talk Cavs. We're going to talk Guardians. And we're going to talk. Oh my God. And we're going to talk Browns.
I had a mouthful of coffee.
I'm sorry, brother. It's just torturing. What they're doing is torturing
I don't
me.
know why that was so funny.
Slowly torturing me. We're also going to do, well, I'll hold that for just a second because it's our first item. Bulls bet. This is our last Bulls bet of the day, correct?
Last Bulls bet of the day. It may come back with a new sponsor, but
Right.
as it currently stands, our partnership with Bet Rivers ends because we have a hopefully impending new sportsbook sponsor.
Beautiful.
So we may lose Bulls bet of the day. They may want to bring it back. We'll see. But today, for the last time ever, I'll pour a cold one out for Bet Rivers. Hey, Ohio, Bet Rivers Online Sportsbook is the place to be for every single game. Right now is the perfect time to join Bet Rivers Sportsbook because when you use deposit code SPORTS, you'll receive a second chance bet up to $500. You can get in on all the action with weekly specials on your favorite sports like basketball and hockey to help you win big. Check them out at betrivers.com or download the Bet Rivers app today for the latest lines, odds, and boosts. The end of Bulls' run with Bet Rivers is he's not hot. He has been on a cold streak as of late. I believe he's lost 5 of his last 7, and he's going out with a bang, taking the money line on 2 underdogs today, the Rangers against the Orioles and the Marlins at the Angels. Parlay those together. If they both win, if Bull's going to go out hot, that'll give you a hell of a profit. But Bull's taking 2 underdogs in his final day of his bet of the day with Bet Rivers.
Yeah, he has really sort of hit the skids here. Is he still plus 500?
Yeah, he's now 9 games over 500, but it's the first time in, I think, a month and a half he's been single digits over 500. He was up to like 17, 18 games over 500 at one point.
Okay. And meantime, let's check in on your A's bet. Every single day you bet $10 on the Oakland A's to lose. You're up how much now?
I bet him against the run line, so not just to lose,
Right.
but against the
Yeah.
run line. They lost last night, or I don't even know what the score was. I know my bet lost, so they either lost by 1 or 1. But I was up $118 as of 2 days ago, so I
you're-
guess 108 now.
All right.
So
That's
still
not bad.
profitable.
Not bad.
But Jason keeps telling me I have to increase the unit.
Yes.
I am ready, especially in the summer when now they're officially out of it. I guess they've been out of it since the first week of the season. They're
Right.
the worst team ever. I might go to like $20 to $50 a game.
Does it
We'll
feel,
see.
because you look at this every day, does it feel that Vegas has made the adjustment?
Yeah,
to
it's
you?
like even -1.5.
Yeah.
You're getting like -140 odds. Like they don't even expect it. It's not a great return on investment. But
Yeah,
it's
they know
fun.
what's going on.
So
I told him $1,000 a game, coward. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, if you were $1,000 a game, you'd be up $1,080 instead of $108.
I just want to know if you're going to do what Tyvis said. Tyvis told you to bet the whole
No.
pot last game
No.
of the year.
no, that's how you lose all your money.
Yes, that is how
That-
you
that's
lose
how
all
you
your
Yeah,
money.
do it, Jason
one
Lloyd.
time my son, we were playing blackjack. We played blackjack for like 4 hours.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. And he got on a hot streak. We were going to quit after about 3, but he got on a hot streak about 2.5 hours in, and he's like, Dad, I can't leave this table.
Yeah.
So we stayed on it, and he was absolutely slaying it. I mean, it was like stupid things he was doing, splitting when he shouldn't have, hitting when he shouldn't have, everything. He's just winning. It's
Yeah.
just one of those things.
Yep.
We got done 4 hours. It's like 2 in the morning. We're getting ready to walk back to the room, and he said, putting all of it on black.
Oh,
on the roulette table.
no.
I'm like, Corey, what? He's like, easy come, easy go. Let's do it. He had so many chips. Put them all on black. One spin, it's red. We walk up empty-handed.
Wow.
It
wow.
was nuts.
Oh,
and he,
you
you know,
just
he
broke
just,
my heart, and I wasn't even there.
and he was just like, oh well, I'll get him next time. I'm like, Corey, what
Corey
are you
different,
doing?
man.
Dude, those,
Corey built different.
Those, I know
I would've
what you're
been
talking
pissed.
about. Those
Yeah.
blackjack streaks are rare.
I know
have
they
had
are.
One in my life.
I've only approached that hot zone one time, and it wasn't for as long as his was. Even the deal, they switched the dealers twice.
Yeah.
Because the pit boss was looking at him going, what the hell is going on with
Yeah.
this kid?
Yeah.
Because they weren't all smart plays. And he was just like, it's gut, Dad. It's gut. It's hunch. I'm hot. Let's go. And so they switched the dealers out. They switched the dealer again way before it was
Yeah.
time to do
Yeah.
it. And he just kept slaying it and hitting. And it was funny, even when he wouldn't heavy double down, he was losing. So it's not like he was doubling down on everything and going big on everything and winning. Sometimes he would say, when the book would say go, he would say, you know what, no, I don't feel this one. And it would hit, and he would lose. It was just crazy. It was nuts. Okay, I love this topic to start. Pro Football Focus every year names their 25 top players in the league under 25.
Correct.
And the Browns have always had a player on the list, at least for as long as I can remember, but not this year, Mike. Do you want to read the list before we talk about it? Or
I'll read the list, and I'll set up where I want to go with this. And today's top topic, as always, is brought to us by Lorain County Community College. Your class is your future. Register for summer and fall classes right now. You can learn more at lcccc.edu. All right, Steve, we can take 163 full. This is PFF's top 25 under 25. We'll read through the whole list. At number 1 is Micah Parsons. 2, Justin Jefferson. 3, Tristan Wirfs. 4, Jamar Chase. 5, Sauce Gardner.
Any problems with those guys? Because those are clearly those. Micah
I don't know
Parsons,
about that Micah Parsons guy. We might have to.
Micah
talk
Parsons
about that.
might be one of the top 25 players in the league.
Oh,
period.
for sure.
I mean, not
good.
even under 25.
Yeah, I'm good with 1 through 5. I think 1 through 5.
Yeah, they're
is solid.
very solid players, all of them.
6 through 10, Creed Humphrey, the Chiefs center. Patrick Surtain, the defensive back for Denver. Rashawn Slater, CeeDee Lamb, and Andrew Thomas. Any issues?
I didn't know.
11 through 15, you have Jalen Waddle, Jonathan Taylor, Penei Sewell, T. Higgins, and Christian Darrisaw, the Vikings left tackle who had a great second season this year.
I was a little shocked that Jonathan Taylor was that high. I think Jonathan Taylor, he had the great year 2 years ago, but he fell back huge last year. I don't know. I mean, I
he
guess
was 3 on their list last year, for context.
Yeah, but boy, he led the league in rushing 2 years ago and just laid a huge egg last year.
I think that's a little too high for Jonathan Taylor.
But I got to be honest too. Some of these linemen, I don't know.
Right.
I have no idea.
It's part of what makes this. I mean, this is obviously offensive heavy
Right.
on all of this. So that puts guys defensive guys like Martin Emerson at a disadvantage right off the rip.
Right. Which I don't know why they would go so heavy on offense. You think they would try to at least split
Balance
it up
it.
and
Yeah,
go
I don't
13,
know.
12 or whatever. Okay, what's 16 through 20?
You got Devonta Smith, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Trevor Lawrence, Garrett Wilson, and Drake London. 4 receivers in this 5 quartet.
I'd actually move Wilson up.
I would too, and I think I'd move Smith up.
And lastly, 21 through 25, Kyle Pitts, A.J. Terrell, Chris Olave, Tariq Woolen, and Trayvon Diggs, which begs the question, where's Martin Emerson?
Yeah, that's a snub. I think, you know what happened? I think they got down to the end of the list and somebody said, guys, we got all offensive players on here.
Throw a couple.
Give
defensive
a
backs
couple
on there.
bones.
Yeah.
So they threw a couple in, and you're right. That put Martin Emerson at a huge disadvantage. But, I mean, I don't know. This is one of those things that's really hard to judge because I don't study the league like that.
Right.
I don't. I study the Browns,
Right.
and I study the teams in the Browns division. But, I mean, is he one of the top 25 players under 25? I don't know, but I'll tell you this. 31 other teams would love to have him.
Absolutely.
And so by that measure, I think he's, he had to be in others receiving votes.
He's in the conversation, and that's good enough. Like
Yeah.
I don't get twisted over some of these lists. I think a lot of them are silly, frankly, and it's all just a talking point. It's all just fan bases. My guy got screwed. Whatever. It doesn't
It's
really-
clickbait, and we took it.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, the only reason I got twisted is because of who put the list out. PFF put this list out, and to me, it contradicted everything that PFF put out throughout the season. Mike, can I get that last slide again, please?
Yeah, that's a good
The
point.
the
I'm
last
glad you went
slide, yeah.
there.
Yeah. So for me, when I look at that last slide, Jason, it's only one player on that list I can say okay, and that's Chris Olave. But check this out. Martin Emerson's PFF grade last year was 72.5, which was 23rd amongst all the DBs. A.J. Terrell, 63.9, tied for 61st. Tariq Woolen, 69.1, tied for 34th with Greg Newsome. Trayvon Diggs, 67.6, tied for 42nd with Marcus Jones.
All below Emerson.
All below
below
Emerson. Here's the other crazy part. We all know Anthony Walker finished with a high PFF grade, but he played 3 games.
Right.
Of everybody who played qualifying amount of games, he was second on the Browns to Myles Garrett in overall PFF grade. So how can PFF, the same company, the same entity that released this list, leave this man off the list after, based on PFF projections,
Based on their own metric.
off their own metric,
Right.
he exceeded everybody that's above him.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
It don't make sense to me.
It doesn't make sense at all.
Yeah,
And
I didn't have those numbers. That's really good. I just know going back from watching, like we have scatter charts at the Athletic and some of the advanced stuff that
You
we
guys
have
use
access
different
to.
metrics too, don't you? You use your own.
Well, no, we don't have our own developed, but we have.
Okay, I thought you did.
I think it is. Is it PFF? I'd have to go look and see. But we have scatter charts that rank. You can put in different X and Y axis stuff. And Emerson graded really, really well on all of them.
Right.
And Newsome had a better year. I remember saying that on a show. I think I sent you guys a couple nuggets that like Newsome had a much better year than what we thought he did if you want to go by the data. But Emerson, those numbers are compelling, yeah. And again, to me, he's in the conversation. That's good enough. That tells you you've got a young piece who, and I think a lot of people, regardless of this list and regardless of the numbers, a lot of people probably look at him just as a mid-round pick. It was only 1 year. Let's see what he does in year 2.
And that's fair.
And it is fair.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to have a monster year 2, actually.
I think he is too, especially in this system.
Yes.
I just feel like everybody is going to be better. I think Jim Schwartz has that sort of magic wand where his system is going to be so ingrained in their heads. And I do think that, we always talk about great coaches put their players in the best positions to succeed based on their skill sets.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I just think that Woods was asking these guys to do things that they're not necessarily good at doing, and he had many of them on the defense doing that, and as a result, you had a lesser product than you could have had based on the sum of the individual parts.
And I just know, we don't have to relitigate all of last year, but I know a lot of the players were frustrated defensively that nothing ever changed.
Yeah.
Like, I had guys who had played on multiple systems and multiple schemes on other teams telling me, when it's not working, change it up. Like, why don't we ever change anything? And the players were really frustrated by that. I think you'll see that part change. I think the Browns are a little bit more adaptable with who they brought in. I think they can play different styles. They can play different ways. You can see Za'Darius and Myles and Obo all on same plays and giving defenses a different look. Obviously, they'll be nickel heavy at times. I just think that there's enough personnel package mix and matching now that they can really mix things up.
Yeah, I totally agree with all that. And I think for me, the fact that Jim Schwartz is an old school type of coach, he was here with the original Browns, and just everything that he's learned throughout his career, he knows how to keep football simple. He knows how to keep the language simple. He knows how to keep, okay, this is your job. This is what you're supposed to do. This is what you're supposed to do.
Right.
Instead of like just being too fancy, having guys out there overthinking, and when you overthink, you can't just instantly react to a play. And so I think everybody's going to be better this year as well. I think to me, MJ Emerson is getting slighted because he plays for the Browns. I really feel that
There's
way.
always something to that.
Yeah.
I mean, you see that sometimes in Pro Bowl selections when teams underperform, the individual players are punished when it comes to awards.
And just think about this, and we know this as fans, right? Anytime we put an expectation on a player or a team from Cleveland, they let us down.
Right.
And so maybe PFF might look at this situation like, okay, well, he plays for the Browns. I don't know if I want to touch that. I'm not really sure about this team. Who knows? But 15 pass defenses last year, which was top 6 in the entire NFL. And the guys that's above him through 22 to 25, only one guy had more pass defenses than he did.
Wow.
And so, again, just going off your own metrics, it was kind of a head scratcher to why did you leave him off the list? And the only thing I could come up with, well, maybe it's because he played with the Browns, because if you go off your own metrics, he's better than 3 or 4 guys you got on the list.
That really is confusing.
Yeah.
These are the numbers that you use as your holy grail to how you look at people, how we should judge individual players. And then when it comes time for them to compare those players against one another, they're putting a player who, by their own numbers, ranks higher than them, and they're leaving him off the list.
You know what would be interesting is to go through that whole list and look and see what their PFF grade was and see if they just slotted them. You know what I mean? Obviously, there's players over the age of 25, but guys that are under 25, if they just took.
Well, if they would have done that,
Emerson
would be on the list.
But I'm just wondering if there are other discrepancies like that.
Right.
In the
Yeah, no,
overall
that's a good
data.
point.
Was Micah Parsons the highest graded player all year long in their 25? In their 25 under 25.
Right, got it, yeah.
And so he's number 1.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just interesting.
Yeah, it's a good find by you, though, because if you're going to put those numbers out individually for seasons, you would think that they would look at those numbers when it comes to grading those players against one another, particularly those that play the same position, and they clearly in this case didn't do that.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mike. You want something?
I have an Emerson stat, and this is my favorite one. Me and Earl did a ton of digging into the numbers this morning to find out if he was snubbed and how you can make the case. So he was targeted 91 times last year, right?
Right.
The opposing quarterback rating against him in those 91 targets was 77.6. Now, with no context, you don't know what that means. Here's what it means.
Well, we know what that means in context to a good quarterback
yeah,
rating.
so let me give you
turn him into
the
Baker.
relative terms.
That's what that means.
Yeah, they did.
32 quarterbacks last year
Right.
had a 77.6 QB rating or higher,
Right.
which means when QBs targeted Martin Emerson, they were essentially Kenny Pickett. So he turned every quarterback they played last year, when being targeted, into essentially the statistical version of Kenny Pickett, and I'll take my chances with Martin Emerson against Kenny Pickett 100 out of 100.
No, that is a great stat, and it's one of the reasons I'm so excited about this Browns defense. We know the pieces they have in the back end of this defense. We know what Denzel Ward is. The only way I can explain Denzel Ward having a huge regression last year is it was system based. It just we talk about putting players in positions where their strengths are used to the team's benefit.
Right.
He was the guy that I just thought looked most underutilized or misutilized. So I just believe that the pieces there in the back part of the defense are certainly there. And if you throw Ward in there and Emerson has the kind of season that we know he can, we know what Newsome was too. It's just like everybody took a step back last year. And I don't know how else to explain it other than Joe Woods.
Yeah, well, this will be obviously everyone's chance to, after a shakeup, and this is a big prove-it year. We spent a lot of the show yesterday talking about it. It's a big, for guys like Grant Delpit, it's a big prove-it year. For guys like Greg Newsome, it's a big prove-it year. You know, you had a good rookie year, you took a step back your second year, now it's time to reemerge. But again, I saw a lot of numbers after the season that Newsome wasn't nearly as bad as what we thought he was.
Right.
But regardless, there was certainly, it felt like there was plays out there to be made that weren't being made.
Without using numbers and just using our eyes, there were just too many times where
Yes.
Newsome wasn't where he was supposed to be and didn't make plays that we thought he should have made.
Just so many busts in the secondary. So many busts.
That's what I always go to.
And they got it cleaned up for a while, it felt like, and then it felt like it happened again.
And the busts weren't just busts. They were like junior high busts where everybody's looking around going, were we running the same play?
3 guys playing one coverage and 2 guys playing another.
That
stuff
should never
just
happen.
can't
Mostly
happen.
communication based.
We talking. There it is, the communication. How many times do we come on this show on a Monday after a Sunday game, talking about all the DBs pointing at each other, saying this is your fault, this is your fault.
Right.
And again, the language and the assignments was just too complicated. And I felt like the fact that Joe Woods just kept overcomplicating the defense unnecessarily, it created communication barriers. And clearly they had a hard time getting over them.
They did.
We talk about Denzel. Denzel, to me, is better than man. This is when this dude.
I think so too, but you can't play a man the whole game, can you? Or
Depends on who he's matched up against.
Yeah, I would say
Right.
that.
I wouldn't
depending
want to leave
on
him in
the
man
matchup.
against Garrett Wilson for 4 quarters.
Absolutely not. No. But I mean that's an ask.
Yeah.
To do that, to put him on a one-on-one island with a top-ranked receiver, and he's usually going to be on the team's best receiver. That's a big ask, and you can wear him out quickly doing it that way.
That is very true.
But put him in a zone that that the guys can understand and that he can play and still maximize his talents. The one thing I guess to me, Mike, that jumped out was I'm wondering if the Browns now have crossed that threshold of being the young team that's on the rise. Like even though they never really got there. We've heard so much about, well, they've got a lot of young talent. When Myles Garrett was under 25, well, Myles Garrett is one of the game's best young players. I guess at 25, or 26, you're no longer considered young. At that point, you're 3 or 4 years into the league, depending on when you came out. And my question here, off of this talking point, is there window of opportunity right now? Like we're in it, it's underway, and we know these things don't stay open long. Because they no longer can be looked at as a team with a lot of emerging young talent. Based on this list, they don't have any of the game's best young players, perhaps besides Emerson.
For me, I think the window is right now. And I think the only way that we can extend that window is if DeShaun Watson shows up in balls.
Right.
That's just how I look at it. You talk about Myles Garrett being in the prime of his career. Nick Chubb is in the prime of his career. Denzel Ward is in the prime of his career. Your core 4 or 5 players are all in the prime of their career, and they're all making a lot of money. Eventually, we talk about all the time, you can play with the salary cap and manipulate it as much as you want to, but eventually you're going to have to pay the piper. And if we end
There is a reckoning.
Yeah, eventually you're going to have to. So if we come to a point to where we get another season, 2 or 3 seasons down the line, and the product is still the same, then we've kind of missed out on our opportunity to capitalize on the Super Bowl with all this talent.
Yeah.
When you're trading draft picks for veterans, your window is right now. And
Yeah.
Za'Darius is, how old is Za'Darius? 30?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dalvin Tomlinson, I think, is 29. When you're signing veteran free agents, when you're signing, I don't think guys are going to fall off a cliff after this year, but 100% they're in the window right now.
Your building blocks are no longer young,
Right.
up and coming.
Right.
Your building blocks now are the guys that have already proved it around the league.
Yeah.
And you're hoping they still have something left in the tank.
Yeah, you've got an aging veteran offensive line. When you look at right tackle, when you look at left guard with Bitonio and Conklin, you've got guys who've been around for a few years now, and we've said it all offseason. There's so much at stake. It has to work. There's so much at stake on this season. They're all in. They're all in on all of it.
Jay, how long does the window last? I know it's different for every team, but the NFL is built in a way where the bottom of the league and the top of the league should switch every 5 years or so. What is this window?
Well, the window is, I agree with Earl, the window is the quarterback. Burrow said it. I loved what Burrow said toward the end of last season. As long as I'm playing, we got a chance.
Right.
And when you've got a franchise guy, your window's open. A true elite quarterback, I'm not going to put a number on it, top 5, top 6, top 7. I think this era is the best quarterback play we've ever seen in the history of the league.
You do.
I think if you go down the list of the top 10 guys and comparing to the 10 best from previous eras, I think these guys are better.
Yeah.
And so I don't know that top 5 quarterback means what it did in 1985. You know what I mean?
I think it was easier to define the top 5 before. Now that top 5 seems to spill over into the top 10 and
that's
maybe
my
even
point.
the top
15.
12.
That's my point.
And that's now you're talking about half the league
Right.
have what they think is an elite
A
quarterback.
top 5 quarterback.
Yeah, that's why I always said, to me, elite is the top 3.
Right.
And why did I decide on the top 3? Because that's 10% of the league's quarterbacks. And if you're going on a bell curve, and that's how I like to look at players.
Yeah.
The bulk of the players are in the C grade.
Sure.
And then you have the fringes with the B's and the D's and the extreme fringes with the A's and the F's. And so for me, if I'm going to call you elite, I can't make a case for you being a top 5 because that's now almost 20%. Elite is top 10, and that's top 3. And in my mind, the elite quarterbacks in this game are pretty easy to define. I think it's Burrow. I think it's Mahomes. I think it's Allen, although Allen is got
Allen's
an asterisk
wobbling
next
a
to
little
his
bit.
name.
Allen's wobbling.
He
and
is
I
wobbling.
love Josh Allen.
I do too in the regular season, but I need to see more. I
Yeah,
need to see.
I
And you know,
agree.
this year we saw a regression with his picks. The elites don't throw picks. They don't kill you with the turnovers. So for me, really, right now, I think there's 2 slam dunks, Mahomes and Burrow. And outside of that, I think the discussion is open for number 3, but there's probably 5 names you can start debating when it comes to who's 4 and 5.
Right.
So,
right. And for the Browns, and as we talk window and contention, how long is this window? They just need DeShaun to be back to what DeShaun was. That's all.
Yeah.
And that will give you a chance. He doesn't have to be top 3. He doesn't have to be in that conversation you talked
Right.
about. But he has to be in that top 6, 7 where
he certainly can't be what we saw last year.
he has to be. You know what he has to be? And I just kind of thought of this. When and I don't want to keep talking about Baker, but when Baker had the ball with 3 minutes to go, I never felt like they were going to win the game. When you need one score and a got to have it
Ultimately,
moment,
that was his undoing.
that was his undoing.
Because no one ever had confidence or faith
When he threw the
in
pick,
him in that situation.
when he threw the pick at Kansas City,
Week 1.
I
Yeah.
said, that's really bad. And people were going crazy on me. And I'm like, guys, it's on him. Like, I don't
Yeah.
care what the numbers were for the first 57 minutes.
Right.
In the got to have it moment, what do you do? And that's what DeShaun has to be the guy when you've got the ball with 3 minutes left and you're on your own 22-yard line, you're going to win the game.
Yeah.
You know you're going to win the game.
And they're, the guys
If
that come to
Mahomes
mind,
is on the field, Chiefs are going to win the game.
and we know that.
Yeah.
The guys in the past decades, Tom Brady, don't give him 2 minutes. Brett Favre when he played, Aaron Rodgers, Mahomes, those were guys that could be B+ for 55 minutes.
Don't give
But
them the
they
ball
were
at the end of the game.
extraordinary,
Yep.
A+, eye-poppingly good in the last 5 minutes. And Baker was never really extraordinary for the first 55 minutes. He was serviceable. But in the last 5 minutes, in the gotta-have moments, as you call them, he was shockingly bad.
Awful.
Let's just use Patrick Mahomes, right? I think Patrick Mahomes personally is in the elite class by itself. I think the 2 Super Bowls.
I agree with that.
The
It's
2
Mahomes
Super
and
Bowl.
then
So you don't even want to put
MVPs.
Joe Burrow in
I
there
think
yet.
Joe Burrow is in that next class of quarterbacks where Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts is. But I think Pat Mahomes is in the class by
So
himself.
he is clear-cut number 1, and then there's some other guys.
There's some other guys.
Okay.
Just the MVPs, the Super Bowl MVPs, the Super Bowl rings. But even with Pat Mahomes, we see him make bonehead throws and plays.
We have.
At certain moments of the game. But when it's crunch time, when it's winning time, and the Chiefs got the ball, everybody on this panel know he's going to drive down the field. He's going to get the Chiefs the points that they need necessary.
Right.
And they're going to come out victorious.
It's a headline when Tom Brady didn't close a deal.
Exactly.
It was a headline, it still is, when Mahomes doesn't close a deal.
And it
was a
happens.
headline if Baker ever did pull out a win late.
And like Michael didn't hit every game-winning shot. We think he did.
He missed
I know.
more
But
than
he
he
did.
hit.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? Like, and LeBron's missed too. Like, they miss in those moments, and the top quarterbacks do miss. But when they get on the field, you absolutely believe they're going to win this game.
The playoff
And the
game-
guys on the defensive side know it too.
They do know it. You can see the defeat when there's 32 seconds left and they're looking up. They're going, "We gave him too much time."
Well, do you remember the
32
Bills
seconds.
the
The
Bills
Bills
in the playoffs gave the Chiefs 13 seconds, and on the sideline they looked terrified.
Greatest game I've ever seen.
I remember that.
I still think that's the greatest football
13
game I've ever
seconds.
seen.
And you know, that kind of goes back to my point about quarterback play. Go back to the drive. Browns fans thought that was over. They were
absolutely.
on their own too.
And there was a minute 50 to go.
That's like 6 possessions today.
And it was John Elway, so
Right?
he's a Hall of Famer.
But at the time, Browns fans are like, this is over. There's only a minute 50 to go.
I was trying to clear my schedule for the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I really was. I'm like, this is going to happen.
Think of how much different the game is today.
Oh,
than
my
a minute
gosh.
50 today is literally 3 or 4
Literally,
possessions.
Patrick Mahomes has to watch the NFL films. I think it's on a loop somewhere. It's running somewhere,
Yeah.
sometime, everywhere. He has to watch that and be like, that's celebrated? I'll score 3 times in that round. Come on, what are you doing?
What y'all doing
and
these
what's
days?
crazy is, and I don't know, help me, was DeShaun Watson ever that dude in Houston? Like,
It's funny you say that. So I was talking to someone with the Browns right after the trade. I was talking to someone who involved in the offense who said they were watching film of DeShaun in Houston, and I can't remember the game, but they had the ball going into the half on like the 35, and they went boom, 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 touchdown. Like 38 seconds. Pass over the middle, pass down the sideline, touchdown. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
And a guy I was talking to laughed and said, we didn't have that in the playbook last year.
yeah, no, it's definitely
I'm
not.
gonna tell you what did it for me. It was a playoff game. They were playing the Buffalo Bills. I think it's like a key 3rd down or 4th down play. He drops back the pass, and edge rushers from both sides come. They collapse and they hit him. DeShaun spins out of it. Mikey, you can find
Oh,
this
yeah,
play
no,
too.
I remember that play. That was kind of a signatory
Yeah,
play for him.
he spins out of it, boom, gets the 1st down. Next play, he throws the game-winning touchdown. I've been a huge fan of DeShaun Watson since his Clemson days.
He did that a lot at Clemson.
Yeah,
And
he
so
did.
for me, you know, and I really don't get these opportunities to talk about this, but when I seen him at Clemson, I think that was the same year we took DeShone Kizer. And I remember telling my cousin, I said, I'm not tripping on that. DeShaun Watson is coming out next year. That's who we're going to draft. And I remember his coach calling him the Michael Jordan of football.
Right.
I think DeShaun Watson is a damn good player. I think he's a clutch player. And I think he has elite potential. And if he can overcome his hurdles and get back to, he said he wants to be better than what he was in Houston. And so if he can fulfill his own personal goals and potential, then the Browns' window is as open as anybody else's who
Right.
has a quarterback of that caliber.
In their mid to late 20s.
Yeah.
To this day, Dabo and his wife love DeShaun, love him, speak glowingly of him. I don't know publicly how much they've said since he went through everything he went through, but Dabo and his wife just adore DeShaun Watson for whatever that's worth to people.
Well, it's not just Dabo. When you go to Clemson and you talk to people that have been around the program for a long time, and he's out. Obviously, when a guy's in, everybody's going to say all
Yes.
glowing things.
Right.
And when they leave, they tell you what an idiot he was.
You find out the truth
Yes.
when they're gone. They're like,
Yes.
you know, he was great on the field, but boy, did we have to put up with a lot of drama.
Yep.
You can go there today and you can talk to all kinds of people in that program, and they all say the same thing about DeShaun Watson. An incredible human being, kind, courteous, respectful. All of the things that you want, the adjectives that you want to be used about the guy who's representing your franchise. That's why it was such a dichotomy like the Deshaun Watson that sort of emerged through the media after all of these allegations. How can both of these things be true?
True.
And so somewhere in the middle lies the truth, as they say, and that's usually the case. But I love to hear you say that he has said he just doesn't want to get back to his old Houston Texans.
Yeah, he wants to be better than that.
He wants to be better. For me, that's the kind of language I want to hear. I want him to be better. His best football should be in front of him.
Well, given where he left off, he's got a long way to go.
He's got a long way to go.
I hope he packs some water.
At this point, I just hope he's a lot better than DeShaun Watson from the Browns last year.
I'll
what
say
I'm
this.
saying.
I set false expectations for myself, and I should have do better. When
Yeah.
you're not doing your job for over 700 days, and when you have everything going on that you had going on off the football
That's
field,
a lot.
it's a lot to come back to just from a professional standpoint. But we don't know what the mental aspect of it was. Not just for him, his mother had to watch his son go through all these different things, and the people that's close to him. And I'm pretty sure the disappointment or the embarrassment that they were experiencing weighed heavy on him. And then
Because they were answering for him in the public.
By the way, he's got a girlfriend.
yeah, and so
I'm just saying.
That this is good news.
This is
Right?
No, I just mean like he had a girlfriend through all of that. So imagine
The same girl?
every
Yeah.
single night, every single day.
Yeah, and again, every time we have this discussion, I feel like I have to preface it with I'm not trying to excuse anything that he did, regardless of what he did or did not do. Michael Irvin said this. I never forget. Michael Irvin said, "The worst part wasn't the arrest. The worst part wasn't the headlines. The worst part was walking in the door and looking at my wife. That was the worst part."
Yeah.
And like he had to live that. DeShaun, regardless of what he did, he had to come home every day and deal with
Well,
that.
the fact that she stood by him through all of that, she must believe him.
Well, they ain't married yet.
From a football,
Just saying.
from a football
Like, real
standpoint,
talk.
for as bad as it was, he still went 3-3. Cool stat about DeShaun Watson, which I know you both know. He's never finished below 500 in his career. So for even as bad as that was,
he was under 500 for the Texans.
They were 3
They were
4
3-13.
12 or whatever.
well, yeah, that year.
His career record in Houston's 28-25.
Okay. Yeah.
So
So his career record, you're saying his career record.
His career record is it's 28 and 25.
Okay, yeah, because he has had regular seasons where he clearly finished under 500. But for his career, his win-loss record has not been below 500.
And I guess the only point I'm making to that is if that was that bad, we can only go but up.
Yeah, well, that's for sure. I mean, just watching his play, it can only get better. Go ahead, Mike.
You guys mentioned, Jason says we think he could be a closer. I got two stats that, we'll see what happens, but he's proven he is a closer. He has 31 career wins in the NFL. 31. He has 8 fourth-quarter comebacks and 10 game-winning drives. So almost a third of his games, and that's a testament to Houston not being very good defensively and him having to lead an offense to a late drive. But in a third, essentially, of his career wins, he's had a fourth-quarter comeback in a game-winning drive.
That's impressive.
The game-winning drive means more to me than fourth-quarter comeback.
Yeah,
I mean,
you could
if
be down 17-14 and score a minute into the fourth quarter.
14 to 13 in
fool's
the
gold.
fourth quarter begins with you have the ball in the
But the
tank.
game-winning drives,
That's more
that is
important.
the money stat.
Yeah.
That was the Brett Favre stat, the John Elway stat,
Yeah.
the Tom Brady stat.
He had 5 in 2018 when they went 11-5. So essentially half their wins that year were fourth-quarter comebacks. The following year in 2019, they went 10-5 in the games he started. He did miss one game that year. Also had 5 game-winning drives. So essentially in a 2-year stretch, half of the Houston Texans' wins were on fourth-quarter game-winning drives led by DeShaun Watson.
I thought the Texans were going to the Super Bowl in 2019. And Browns players said I was crazy, and I was. But I remember talking to a couple of defensive players after I think they played Houston in 19, and I said, I think that team's going to the Super Bowl. And they're like, you're nuts. No, they're not. But they're good. But that's how much I believed in DeShaun at one time. I thought the Texans were going to the Super Bowl.
Well, the fact that if you're winning 6 and 5 games in the last, on a game-winning drive, essentially, I think half of the games for every team come down to the last couple of minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what the
NFL's
NFL
built
is.
that way. That's
It
exactly
is
right.
built that way.
Yeah.
Even the Kansas City Chiefs, who are the defending Super Bowl champions, you can look at their season last year. Yeah. There were a lot of games that were in the balance with 3 minutes to go.
Yes.
How many game-winning drives do you think Mahomes has in his career? Sorry to cut you off.
Wow.
I'm gonna say 12 or more.
Well, this could be misleading because they do have a lot of blowouts too.
So Watson had 10 in comparison, and he had 31 career wins.
I would say Mahomes has as many.
Let's define game-winning drives. You got the ball last. You know what I mean? Like, you got the ball last.
I'm just going off what Pro Football Reference. According to Pro Football Reference, a game-winning drive must be an offensive scoring drive in the fourth quarter or overtime that puts the winning team ahead for the last time. So, yeah, a legit game-winning drive. And he has 64 career wins. So, out of 64.
I think it's probably lower than you think.
They have had enough blowout wins where it would probably be lower than
I would say
15.
I'm gonna say 12.
Yeah, 14. You guys are right around
Okay.
there. So 14 of 64. He's never had 5 in a season. So
Now, for context, what did Brady have for his career? Now, I know he played for 20 years,
give me 1 sec.
but it just seemed like when you watch Tom Brady in those situations, and I'm not sure, the year they went 15-1, they had a lot of blowouts, but it just seemed like Brady did it every other week.
Yeah.
And teams, and to your point, they'd give him the ball with 42 seconds left, and they'd cut away to the defensive coordinator, and he'd be like, oh my God, here we go again.
Yep.
Here we go.
He had 58.
Jesus Christ.
And that's by far the
goodness.
most, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm going to look up. Hold on. I'm going to see if I can
game-winning
find
drives.
anything else.
I wonder, like Montana back in the day, what he had, what he would
Yeah,
have.
and Montana would have. I don't even know if they kept that stat.
Yeah,
Peyton had 54.
Peyton had 54.
Peyton was another one.
Yep.
You know, and you knew it when you were playing them. You were looking at the clock as you were driving, and you don't know that you're going to score yet. So, you know, the whole line of thinking is just score. Don't worry about the clock. Score.
Yeah.
Can't win if you don't get to take the lead.
Yeah.
But I would always look at the clock and say, if you kick it with 30 seconds left, the game's over. He's going to win. You can't give him 30 seconds.
And you see that now. You see teams
try to milk it.
And you see teams letting you. When have we ever seen that before? Defenses, the Browns and Chargers. The Browns were pushing the Chargers into the end zone to get the ball back.
That's right.
He said,
We
"You gonna come
never
score right
saw
now."
that 30 years ago.
No, the game has changed.
And Mikey said Montana had 28, and he was Joe Cool back in the day. He was the guy.
He was the standard
for the game-winning drive.
Yeah,
he
he
had
was the
28,
standard.
and now Brady got what 64? He said
Doubled it. 58.
He had 58. Yeah,
58.
I mean, that's insane. That's just
I can't
insane.
find anyone with
Guys,
more.
for context, that's almost 4 full seasons of games that you won on your last drive.
Yeah.
I got the list. You want to hear the top 10?
Yeah.
Tom Brady, 58. Peyton Manning, 54. Drew Brees, 53. Big Ben, 53.
Ben was great in that spot, too.
Dan Marino, 47. Matt Ryan, 46.
Wow,
Brett
Matty
Favre,
Ice.
43. Matt Stafford, 42. John Elway at 40. And then tied for 11th, Johnny Unitas and Eli Manning at 38.
Johnny Unitas making an appearance.
Wow. Johnny U.
Your boy
That's incredible,
Eli.
though. I honestly think that that's a great yardstick for separating the true Hall of Famers, the true, you know, because we talk, if there are 3 elite at any one time in the league, then what is our sample size of elite of all time? Is it 10? Is it 15? And if you do it, either way, you're leaving some great ones on the cutting room floor.
Yeah.
Marino, I don't even think was in that list.
Yeah, he was.
Oh, was he?
did
Marino
say
was
that.
in
Yeah,
that
Marino
list?
was 5th, 47.
Oh, okay.
The one that surprised me was Drew Brees. I don't know why it did. It shouldn't have surprised me.
Well, Brees.
But I wasn't expecting
hasn't
him to be that
Brees
high.
thrown for more passing yards than anyone, except for Brady?
I think Brady just passed him.
Yeah,
but
Brady
he's
passed
second.
him, but I think when Brees retired, I think
He was-
they were right there
Yeah.
with one another.
Yeah.
And by Brady's sticking around a little bit longer than Brees, he broke the record eventually. But we need to have we're going to have 6 to 7, 8 games.
Yes.
That with 5 minutes to go, it's anybody's game. We need DeShaun Watson to be him.
And he had that game against the Saints, and Njoku dropped it. Hit him right here.
You're right. He
Hit
did.
him right. How much different is the conversation around that game if Njoku catches the ball, if he
Not
holds
just
on
that
to that?
game, but Watson's body of work. And now
Yeah.
instead of 3-3, he's 4-2.
4-2, and he led him.
And you extrapolate that out over a season, and now you're looking at 10-7.
And he led him to a win in the worst weather conditions of the season. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it
Like,
is a much different.
The whole narrative about Deshaun, I think, changed a little bit. And he did his job. He hit Njoku right here, and David dropped the
And I
ball.
think he had one in Cincinnati. I think would have been a game tying touchdown to Donovan Peoples-Jones, and DPJ dropped
Is
it.
that the one that in the corner, the
Yeah,
high
it was-
point
yeah.
that he kind of flubbed.
Yeah. So
remember
I mean,
that.
you're right. You got a couple guys that actually
That's
go out
what
here
this
and make
game
the
is.
plays.
It's a game of ifs, inches,
Yeah.
one play
You win on the
here
margins.
or there.
You win on the margins in the NFL more than any other sport.
You do, and I agree with that. In fact, if you go back and look, last year the Browns, if you change the outcome of one play, they could have had 4 more wins. And you could probably do it the other way,
The other
too.
way.
Change the outcome of 4 plays the other way, and they
stole
probably
Carolina.
have 4 more losses.
They stole Carolina.
They
definitely stole
absolutely
Carolina.
stole Carolina.
Yeah.
So what the league is a league. The teams that rise to the top are the teams that execute and perform in the last 3 to 5 minutes. He's been that guy. He was that guy at Clemson for sure, and he's been that guy during the course of his NFL career prior to coming to Cleveland. We need to get back to that clutch late play.
Yeah.
And I think the pieces are there. When you look at the roster, you can't look at this roster and say that this is anything but a playoff roster. The talent is there now. The names are there. It's just somebody's got to put it in a blender and mix it all up, and there's got to be flour in there to hold it all together, and they should be a playoff team.
Zach Jackson and I, my partner at The Athletic, record a podcast yesterday, and I said, and he corrected me, and I think he's right. I said no team in the NFL has a higher ceiling and a lower floor this year than the Browns. And he put the Chargers in there, and I said, yeah, I'd probably agree with that. Like the Browns could go 11-6, 12-5, and people would say, yeah, well, they have the talent. We kind of saw that coming. They could go 5-12. Everybody's fired by October, and you go, yeah, it's the Browns.
Yeah,
kind of saw that coming.
Right.
I think that's a great comparison when I look at both of these teams. Bunch of talented players, still question marks if it's a good team.
Yeah.
And sometimes just because you have a talented group, it doesn't always equal
Well, we've
a
seen
good
that
team.
a ton. I mean, we
So-
saw it last year for sure. We saw it with Jarvis and Beckham.
Yeah.
When you looked at the roster, we had folks running around town in August saying this team's going to win a Super Bowl, or at least go to a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And they underperformed woefully. All right, OTAs are on the docket next, and we've got a guest to talk
We
a little
do
bit
have
about that.
a guest making his UCSS debut, and when we bring in a new guest, at least for today, is brought to us by our friends at the USFL. $10 tickets. They're playing in Canton. Boogie's home the next 4 weekends. Go check Boogie out and the Pittsburgh Maulers. He's on a roll right now. $10 tickets at USFL.com. And Hayden Grove is going to join us now of Cleveland.com. And Hayden is a way bigger dude in person than you would ever expect. And it's because he eats 6 Built Bars a day. That's what he does to stay in tip-top shape. You could use promo code LOCKDOWN15 for 15% off at Built Bar. What's up, Hayden? How you doing, bro?
What's up, guys? How we doing? Excited to make my debut.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. If you've been listening for the last 10 minutes, we've got the Browns firmly in the playoffs. That should come as no surprise to you. Tell us what you've seen so far. There was an open OTA session. I know you were there. Tell us who looked good. Tell us who was notable by their absence. Just empty your notebook. What do you got?
I mean, yeah, it's OTAs, right? So, I mean, you got to take all this with a grain of salt. But I will say that Zadarius Smith made a huge first impression. Great energy, huge guy. Like, you talk about Built Bars, that guy stocks up on him. He's eating like 4 a day. I mean, fantastic size. I mean, he's like 6'5", 6'6". He's got great energy. I was actually surprised Juan Thornhill is bigger than I thought he was going to be. He's a big dude too. Maybe not as physically or muscular, but a taller guy. I thought the notable absence was Myles Garrett. I mean, Nick Chubb, he's down in Georgia. He's lifting weights. He's running. He's doing all his normal stuff. He's not a guy that's necessarily there for the rah-rah anyway. But I thought Myles Garrett, especially with Zadarius Smith coming in, and especially with all the additions of the defensive line, I thought he was a notable absence. Joel Bitonio, I didn't think was that big of a deal of an absence. And also David Njoku. Why not be there? Maybe there was, again, I can't speak to these guys. I don't know what their personal situations are. But David Njoku absent was kind of a shock to me. So Myles and Njoku were kind of the shocks. Again, I'm not going to speculate on what was going on with them. Could have personal stuff, whatever. But those guys were the guys that I expected to be there that were not.
That became an issue yesterday because a lot of folks were saying, big deal. It's not a big deal. It's OTAs. But then you had notable players throughout the league, most notably T.J. Watt, saying that it is a big deal. And T.J. is his counterpart with the team that we hate the most. So to hear someone like T.J. Watt come out and say, no, this is very important that you have to be here for OTAs. I think, Jason, you took some heat yesterday because you put something out there that said you'd rather he had been there, I believe. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but
Oh,
whatever
yeah.
it was, there were folks that,
Apparently, I don't ever read Twitter, but apparently I pissed off a lot of people because I said Myles should have been there. I mean, shocking. I pissed off a lot of people, I know.
yeah. That's how you know you're doing your job.
Well, it's not even about, like, Myles. It's about if you're going to be a leader on this team. If you want to be a franchise pillar and you're going to be the face of the franchise and you're the leader of the defense, then set the example. Then you show up. Even if it's voluntary, you show up. It's not about Myles being ready for the season. That has nothing to do with it. Of course, Myles is going to be ready for the season. It has to do with carrying yourself as the captain, as the leader, as the face. And, you know, I said he was the quarterback of the defense in the terms of the face of the defense, in terms of the most important player on the defense, then show up. And there's a bunch of OTAs, and maybe he's there next week. You know, maybe he was there last week, and we just don't. You know, I don't want to hear the voluntary part. If they're there for a reason. Like, if you're having it for a reason.
Yeah.
And maybe he'll be there next week. You know, I don't know. But that's the day that the media is there. Just show up.
Yeah, especially that day.
Right.
Because
Like,
it's going to become a story.
just show up.
And I know that guys will say, you know, look, you guys write what you write, and the media talks what they want to talk. Fans even talk what they want to talk. We don't hear it. It doesn't divide a locker room.
They hear everything.
But they do hear it. And the thing of it is, like, if you're at a crossroads and you're like, do I do it or not? Do I go or not? You have to weigh the benefits.
Yeah.
And you have to look at the potential distraction that becomes.
Right.
Just go.
Right.
Show that this team is galvanized, and you as the leader are all in on this particular group. Now people are wondering, wow, is he upset because they brought in other star names on the defensive line? You wouldn't think he would be. Show up and tell us that you're not.
Hayden, man, first off, it's nice to meet you. I think me and you might have met like once or twice in the beauty lot in passing. I know you good friends with Double A.
Probably.
So it's nice to meet you. One of the
Nice
things
to
you
meet you as
said,
well.
for you, no big deal that Joe Bitonio wasn't there. For you, you said Nick Chubb is probably working out in Georgia somewhere. Why is it not a big deal that them two weren't there, but a bigger deal that Myles Garrett was not there?
Because I don't think either one of them pretends to be the face of the franchise. Like Jason was saying, like Jay was saying. I mean, this is the face of the franchise. This is the guy that wants to be the leader of this football team. Joel is the leader of the offensive line, no doubt. And you got Nick Chubb is one of the great players in the offense, but he's not necessarily a leader in terms of the face. So again, it really is more just the face of the franchise being there. And I think Jason's right. You know, he could be there next week and it's no big deal. And the funny thing is to me that he's been there all summer. He's been at voluntary, everything else. I think he lives in Cleveland. So it's not like he's, you know, not been around. It's just funny that he wasn't there yesterday. So I'm not killing him by any stretch of the imagination. It just isn't the best look. And again, Myles could be there next week, and this is all forgotten about. But yeah, you're right. It is kind of a double standard. Why isn't Joel there? Why isn't Nick there? I just think for those guys, I mean, you're kind of prototypical guys that are great, but they're not like face of the franchise type guys. You know, they're just kind of behind the scenes doing their own thing. So you're right. It is kind of a double standard. It is kind of weird. But that was just my thought was that, okay, Joel, Nick, I mean, those guys are going to do their job. They're going to do it great. Myles Garrett, there's kind of been some questions about, you know, his impact on the field. It's like he's making an impact. He's getting the sacks, but he's not necessarily making the big plays. So I don't know. I think Myles is definitely under a little more scrutiny than the rest, and it just kind of lends itself to more when he's not at a thing like the OTAs. And David Njoku, honestly, for me, it's not about his face being there. It's just, don't you want to work with your quarterback? I mean, you guys were just talking about the drop passes that he had last year, the one against the Saints, I believe. So be there. Work with your quarterback more. I mean, I know, again, I'm not crushing them, but just my opinion that maybe those two were the guys that I would have been like, oh, well, maybe they should have been there.
I don't care about Joel, Nick, and David not being there. I don't care. Joel, I said yesterday, I think Joel is actually following J.C. Treader's lead still as the union president and one of his best friends.
Right.
Treader basically held a walkout on OTAs when he was here, and I think that's probably a lot to do with why he was forced into early retirement, and Joel's just standing by his guy. Nick's got a contract year coming up next year. Not surprised he's not there. You know, no big deal. Njoku, I don't really care either way. The only one for me, and it was really because more of the role, it was Myles. New defensive coordinator, new scheme, new everything. Just be a leader. That's all. Just be a leader and show up.
And to follow up on that, me and McNuggets was talking about that this morning. I asked McNuggets, I said, the question that I will pose is, well, what does leadership look like to you? Because I think Nick Chubb is a leader, but he's not a vocal guy. And a guy like Myles Garrett, he comes out and he verbally says, you know, I'm one of the leaders of this team. And, I need to get the guys revved up. And I'll just say this before we get back to Hayden. My father used to tell me all the time, the extra mile don't have much traffic on it. And sometimes going that
That's
extra
a great line.
I love that. I've never heard it.
That's a
and I
great
love
line.
going that extra mile and doing the little things, the details. This is not just picking on Myles Garrett, and this is not just pulling lines from different sports movies. This is us in our everyday life. The getting up early, the staying late, the doing things that you're making little money to no money for. Just everything that you can do to go the extra mile to prepare for long-term success. And not only that, attitude is a reflection of leadership. Now, that did come from a sports movie.
Remember the
but
Titans.
When you got all these new faces and you got all these rookies, and Myles Garrett is supposed to be him, he's supposed to be that dude, I can see how the optics might look and how it might piss off some people that he wasn't there.
Yeah. Well, again, there can only be really one face of the franchise, but in football with offense and defense, you would say DeShaun Watson is that guy on offense.
Absolutely.
And you would unequivocally say that Myles is that guy
Absolutely.
on defense. And so I need those two guys there.
Yep.
I need those two guys there because you know what? I can't ask a Bitonio or I can't ask a Njoku to be there if the main leader of one of the units isn't there.
Right.
And they can always point to, well, he's not there.
Yep.
And he's supposed to be the guy that paves the way for that extra mile.
Right.
He's the one putting the pavement down
Right.
so others can travel it too. And you always hear this saying, first in, last out. Your franchise quarterbacks are almost always described that way. They're the first here, they're the last to leave. It might be, well, some people say, well, work smarter. You don't have to be there 18 hours a day, work smarter. But other people will say, your presence is necessary all that time.
Right.
Because that means that there's never a time where someone on the roster is in the building that you're not there. If you're first in and last out,
Yep.
no one can say, I was here and you weren't. And I would think as a leader, he would want to be able to claim that. And to Hayden's point, it's a good one. He'll probably be there for everything else. But when the media was allowed behind the curtain and he wasn't there, he had to know that was going to be written about. If he didn't, I'd say he was probably being a little naive. So.
Yeah, and it's one thing to be written. It's one thing to be written about, but again, it's more it's less about us. We don't really matter in the grand scheme of things. Like Myles doesn't care. It's more about the guys in the locker room. It's more about the guys that are actually there. Yeah, Myles could care less about what we say. The people in that building should care less about what we say. It's more completely about the guys in those locker room, like you said. So it's more about the teammates and less about us. I mean, Myles could probably care less what is written. It's just like, oh, well, even if we didn't write about it, the guys in the locker room would be like, oh, well, Myles wasn't here. Well, they care, right. But
I hope he gets pissed
a little
off
less.
what TJ Watt said.
Believe me, they care.
I wanted to hear what
calls
TJ
to
said.
prove it.
I'm sure that will get back
What's
to him.
that?
Well,
what TJ said?
What TJ said about it. No, I
Yeah.
think you need to be there for
I
OTAs.
think
It's
we'll get
important.
into that in a little bit, right? I don't want to.
I have the quote. We could get into it right now with Hayden. Do you guys want to see the quote?
Sure,
For anyone who
throw it
hasn't
up.
seen it, Steve, pull it up. I'll read it for you guys. It is number 174 here. It's a bit long, so bear with me, but 174, we'll pull it up full. I'll read you the full quote. This is from TJ Watt, who did attend day 2 of OTAs yesterday for the Steelers. And he said, quote, "This time of year is always super important. This is why we are all here. We are just trying to get better each and every day, trying to learn from each other, trying to learn how we practice, how we do things here in Pittsburgh, also being open-minded to the guys who are veterans and have done things successfully in other places."
I don't disagree with any of that.
No, I don't disagree with any of that. I think the question came up yesterday, was he taking a shot at Myles? I don't think that at all. I don't think TJ Watt gives a damn what's going on in Cleveland.
I'm not sure TJ even knew that
I
Myles
agree.
wasn't
Yeah.
there.
That's
I agree with
exactly
that
it.
as well.
Like,
That's
how the hell is he
exactly
going
it.
to know? He's in his own bubble. He's in his own world.
Cleveland pays much more attention to Pittsburgh than Pittsburgh pays to Cleveland.
That is very well said. Yeah, they don't care. They're not going to look to us to
No.
see how we're doing things.
As
and
the
it's
standard
working.
bearer of anything.
We should be looking at Pittsburgh because they're the model of success.
Absolutely.
Even when, Bull's been trying to bury him for 2 years saying this is when their run of 500 season ends. And even when they have a situation where they're going back and forth between a veteran quarterback and a rookie, they still somehow find a way to finish with a winning record.
Yeah. Hey, Hayden, tell me about Cedric Tillman, man. I seen some videos of him out there. It looks like he might have a bigger role on this team than we expected at the time that he was drafted. How did he look? And just talk about what the people and what the players think about him.
Well, he's a big guy, and I think the Browns need big receivers. Elijah Moore is not big whatsoever. Donovan Peoples-Jones kind of teeters on the edge of being big, but I think Cedric Tillman in 2 years, you're going to see a really, really big, athletic, explosive receiver. I still think he's probably receiver number 4, behind Moore, behind Cooper, behind DPJ. But this is a great opportunity for him with Amari on the side to kind of get more reps, get more acclimated with DeShaun Watson. So I really like what I've seen from Cedric Tillman. I think the first time we talked to him in rookie minicamp, just looking at him, I was like, this is the kind of receiver the Browns needed. You know, maybe not the speediest guy, but a guy that has size, a guy that has a big catch radius. I really like what I've seen from him thus far, especially, like I said, when you add a guy like Elijah Moore, who's not that at all, who's kind of that, he's actually been playing a little bit in the backfield for the Browns during OTAs. So kind of that guy that can, use the jet sweep, you can hand it off to him and kind of be the underneath guy. So I think Cedric Tillman eventually could play a role kind of like Amari Cooper, where he's the number 1 or maybe even a number 3 like a DPJ, kind of an outside target in that way.
We'll take whatever we can get from him. I mean, I like what you said. Just his catch radius is big. Yeah. And in the NFL, obviously, times when it seems like the cover guy skills are even better now than they were just even 5 years ago. It's the amount of separation that some of these receivers are able to get is minimal. That means it puts a premium on having a very accurate quarterback who can put it in that slim window, but also a guy that might have a little bit more extra reach here or there, either in height or with his wingspan, to get balls that otherwise would be incomplete with these smaller receivers.
Yeah. Hayden, is there a player that we have not mentioned that we need to be on the lookout for that can make an impact?
Oh man, well I think that when you look at the offense, right, you got your stalwarts, you got your Nick Chubbs, your David Njoku's, your Amari Cooper. I'm really interested in the backup running back position because Nick Chubb is a guy that's only going to get 15, 20 carries a game, if that, and you're going to need some production out of that. Last year, unfortunately, Kareem Hunt seemed to kind of take a step back. That was not what the Browns were looking for. So I'm excited to see. Is it going to be Jerome Ford? Is it going to be Henderson? Is it going to be somebody they bring in? Is it going to be even a guy like Zeke, which I don't think that's a great fit. But again, that position is going to be important. I mean, Nick Chubb has had injuries. I'm not saying he's going to get injured, but that position is going to be huge. So that's a position that I'm definitely looking at for either the Browns to improve, to add to, or maybe a guy like Jerome Ford. What can he bring to the table? What can he bring to this offense?
Skilled guy. He looked great last year in preseason. I'm excited to get an opportunity to look at him more in the regular season with some regular reps. He obviously didn't get that regular work last year. What about the big lineman from Ohio State? The word on him has been big and big. But outside of that, we haven't heard any real glowing reports of how he's fit in so far. What was your assessment?
Yeah, so actually during minicamp, he had when we were able to see him in practice, he had a rough day. He was, visibly frustrated with himself, and Bill Callahan was kind of coaching him through it. So there are growing pains there. There are things that he's going to have to learn. He's going to have to continue to grow. But the other day, I think he got second-team reps in practice. He was at right tackle, so maybe they're not looking to put him at left tackle yet, want to start him at right tackle. He's going to cross-train between both, and you're right. I mean, he is. He's just a giant. He is. When I was covering games at Ohio State throughout the last couple of years, I mean, I would just look at him. He didn't really look athletic, but he just was a massive human being. But then when you watch him move, he ended up being a pretty athletic player. So I'm really excited about him. I'm not saying that he's going to be the heir apparent to Jed Wills. I'm not going to be saying that he's the heir apparent to Jack Conklin, but he is going to be a project, and he is somebody that I'm definitely looking forward to seeing. I thought, just based on his potential, he was a great pick where they drafted him. Obviously, he fell because maybe some of the character things, and I'm not saying we saw them in minicamp, but there was some frustration there. He was kind of showing that visible frustration. So I think there are some growing pains that are going to happen. They're going to mold him. He's a piece of clay right now. Bill Callahan's going to get his hands on him, really make him a better player. So I'm excited to see what he can do in the next couple of years.
You brought up Bill Callahan. If Callahan can't get the most out of this kid, likely no one can.
Yeah,
because he's the dude when it comes to offensive line coaching.
I think we all
McNuggets has a question for you, Hayden.
Hayden, we're going to let you out of here on this. Appreciate you coming on. The last question today is brought to us by Calling Companies Championship, July 12th through the 16th at Firestone Country Club. There is fun, family-friendly events for everybody. Check them out at callinggolf.com. We've had you on for 15 minutes, Hayden, and no one asked how DeShaun Watson looked at the open portion of OTAs. Wow. Bad job out of us. So with that, How did number 4 look in the one time we could see him up close and personal so far this season?
Well, Jason earlier talked about pissing people off. I did the same thing. I posted a clip of DeShaun throwing a pass to Elijah Moore that hit off his hands. I said, DeShaun missed Elijah Moore. And that was met with, it was a good throw. He dropped it. Why are you so hard on DeShaun? What's wrong with you? I was like, listen, I deleted it and I switched it.
Don't ever delete it. Don't delete it.
Yeah, don't back
I know. Unlike
cave
Jason,
to the mouth breathers.
I know. And they be on Hayden's ass, man. You got to stand tall.
They do all
brother.
the time. Yeah,
Hey, guys,
I got your back.
what?
on my.
DeShaun missed a lot more than one throw yesterday. All right?
Yeah, he
missed a lot more than one throw.
He did not look great, is what I will say. But it is OTAs. It is week 1. He missed a bunch of passes, and obviously when he made one good throw that the Browns are going to post on their page and everybody's going to be excited about, and that's great.
To find it.
But yeah, I mean he didn't
Go ahead,
look good.
come at me. Leave Hayden alone and come at me.
Yeah,
I'm a man.
Yeah,
I'm
come
40.
at you.
Well, Hayden, here's the thing.
Yeah.
You know you're doing your job if the fans are coming after you, because for whatever reason, and I'm one of them, I'm a Browns fan,
Yeah.
but for whatever reason, man, this is a touchy group. I mean, this is a touchy. You think with as much as we've lost, we would be, as a group, have a sharper eye and be a little harder on the players, but there's a group of Browns fans that just want nothing negative said or written about anybody on the team.
I'm dead inside.
Somebody responded to me and they were like, well, you posted a clip of DeShaun doing bad and we just want to be excited right now. I'm like, okay, like I'm not supposed to tell you the truth, so you can get really excited for the start of the
Lie to them all.
So you're really excited for the start of the season, and then when DeShaun's not playing well, you're like, oh, he looked great in camp because of all the clips you posted. I was like, yeah, because I only posted the good ones. What do you?
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't get it.
You know what?
I don't
Here's
get
the
it.
thing, Hayden. You posted a clip that was representative of his day's work, right?
I wasn't editing a clip to make the ball drop. Yeah, exactly.
You didn't edit it to make the ball drop. It's just keep doing you, man. You do a great job. We love having you on the show, and I'm sure we'll see you again soon. Thanks,
Hey,
Hayden.
Alessia said to say hi to you, and I always do what my wife says. So hi from Alessia.
It's nice to finally meet you. And I don't look like Josh
likewise.
You do look like Josh Cribbs.
No, he does not look like Josh Cribbs.
Really? Wow. Mm-mm. I think you do.
No, I don't see it.
Okay.
I don't.
All right.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Hayden. Man. And we have a special guest joining us now. This was a surprise. Anthony's looking at me. He's very confused. He has no idea what's going on.
I don't either.
No, this literally happened within the last 3 minutes. He said he needs to come on. He needs to address something ASAP.
Boy. Oh, boy.
Steve?
I know what this is.
I
knew it.
My guy. What's up, boy?
Earl, stop with this Martin Emerson propaganda already, will you?
I told you it was coming.
He brought good numbers, though.
I told you it was
great
coming,
numbers.
man.
Did you see the segment?
No, I actually didn't. That's not why I'm
come on. You're guilty of what we kill people for doing.
That's right.
No,
I've been out all morning. So I haven't had a chance to watch. But I will go back and watch it, because the only thing about Martin Emerson is you can't say, like, when you're debating whether he should be in over other corners and offensive linemen, like, we don't know enough about guys on other teams that play those positions.
Yeah, but you know
Earl,
what,
hit him.
I'm not even going to
hit him with it, Earl. Hit him with it.
The rookie on his debut show, tell Bull, use the numbers that you gave to us. He came prepared.
First of all, Boo, a bad job out of you. I expect better out of you, man.
Nice.
I expect better out of you.
I like that.
Big back.
Okay, first
Man
things
came
first.
running into the ring, and he's about to get hit with the chair.
Yeah, he doesn't know it yet.
Here's the argument. I went to PFF since this list came from PFF. I went to the quarterback position, and Martin Emerson finished with a 72.5 PFF grade, which was 23rd out of qualifying corners. The guys that's above him on that list, minus Sauce Gardner and Patrick Surtain second, A.J. Terrell, 63.9, which was tied for 61st. You got Tariq Woolen, 69.1, tied for 34th. You had Trayvon Diggs, 67.6, tied for 42nd. He had the second highest PFF grade of any Cleveland Browns defender, of course, Myles Garrett being first. His 15 pass defenses was tied for 6th in the NFL. Of the guys that made the list, only 2 of those guys was above him on that list.
And what you got to realize, and listen, I'm not saying that Martin Emerson couldn't make an argument to be on that list. Mm-hmm. The point is 2 things. Okay, you give me the PFF grade, and that's great, and that's part of what they're using. They're also projecting ahead right? What they think is going to happen the next couple of years. But ultimately, we're watching him, and he's a good player. And like my first reaction, like yours, is to say, well, he got snubbed here. But I'm not watching those guys every day, and we can't solely grade on the PFF grade alone.
But it's
right?
the PFF system.
Yeah,
If
this
this
is
was
their own
ESPN's
metric. PFF
rankings,
making a rating,
if this was
and
the
they're ignoring
Athletic-
their own numbers, which they claim are biblical.
Guys, but they're not just looking at what he did last year. They're projecting ahead, and they
No,
obviously
you lose.
these other guys
Well,
have more upside going forward.
I'm usually
Why?
on both
Ultimately-
sides. I'm usually on both sides, not on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm with Earl.
I'm with Earl on this one too. I thought Earl made a great case. Like,
Well,
you're
you
gonna
did
use
make a
your
good
own-
case. I'll give you that. But there's obviously what would be the point of the list if they were solely going on their PFF grade and not projecting ahead to some degree?
Well,
There'd
because
be no
they're
point. You just have 25 highest graded players.
well, because Bull, this isn't like it. I would agree with you if they were naming just the top cornerbacks, and then they, for some reason, had a cornerback rated lower on their list that they themselves grade. But
Right.
this is the accumulation of all players in the league, and the fact that they have 3 guys that they themselves say rated below Emerson, above him on the list. Well,
Yeah,
what is it?
It's certainly a good argument, and I'm proud of Earl for making that excellent argument. I would just argue that that's their projection going forward is that these guys will be better. Ultimately, who gives a shit?
I agree with that.
Yeah, that's what we said
We're the
too.
I
guys
agree with that.
You know what? It was
We know,
clickbait, and we
know
took the
Martin
bait.
Emerson's a good player. We know Martin Emerson's a good player. Whether he's the 22nd best player under 25
Doesn't
or the
matter.
28th plus best player
Yeah.
under 25,
Yeah,
does
doesn't
it really matter?
He's in the
No.
conversation,
He's
and
in the
that's all that
conversation.
counts.
Yeah,
I agree
He
with that.
certainly
Also
belongs
pictured.
in the conversation. Nobody would debate that.
But I did tell
But
you I was
guys-
going to hold my own weight. I told you that yesterday.
Good job, Earl. I'm proud of you. And don't mention what I texted you and
Oh,
John
I'm not.
Peter. again.
I'm not.
Bull,
get
so
big
what's
trouble.
up, Bull? You said you had
Yes.
to come on,
Well,
and something was
I
very
wanted
important
to
and
come
pressing.
on, guys, because as you know, dealing with leukemia is something I've been dealing with for the last couple of years. My wife was diagnosed with what's called T-cell ALL leukemia, and so obviously it's something that I knew nothing about 3 years ago, and now I know a lot about. Well, this week I just found out that there's a kid here in Rocky River. His brother plays in the Rocky River Little League, and the kid is a kid by the name of Spencer Rockwood. Spencer is in the 1st grade, and he was recently diagnosed with T-cell leukemia. Obviously, this is heartbreaking. Nobody should go through this, especially a child. I can't speak to his case specifically. I do know that generally kids do well with the treatment for T-cell ALL or T-cell. I don't know if he has ALL specifically, but T-cell leukemia. So I have optimism, but I obviously don't want to speak to it as a doctor because I don't know this young man's specific case. But obviously, it's extremely sad that a 1st grade a child would go through this. It's heartbreaking, as I know personally. I can't even imagine going through this when it's your child. And he is a next door neighbor of one of the families of the boys, one of the boys on my team. And so this family, the Atwater family, the dad, Chris, is the offensive coordinator at Rocky River High School for the football team. Their children are all great athletes. Their youngest child, Joey, is one of the kids on my team. And they're holding they're just doing a lemonade stand. Nothing crazy, nothing fancy, nothing where they're looking for zillions of dollars here. But they're just trying to raise some money just so when Spencer comes out of the hospital, you can get him a few toys and a few cool things that might cheer him up. So this kid's going through a lot. So what I wanted to say is if you're anywhere near Rocky River tomorrow afternoon between noon and 4 p.m., please stop by 2715 West Asplin Drive. That's 2715 West Asplin, ASPLIN Drive. They're holding a lemonade stand to raise some money. I'm going to tweet out in a little bit a poster, a flyer where you can just, even if you can't go to the lemonade stand, you can click on this GoFundMe account, and again, $1, $2. Nobody's asking you to donate a ton of money. We can all afford to give up. At least most of us can afford to give $1 or $2 or a couple of dollars here and there. and maybe you'll get a good glass of lemonade as well. So tomorrow from noon to 4, 2715 West Asplin Drive. I'll be there for a little bit of the time, but please go between noon and 4. I'm going to tweet something out with more details about it in the next 10 minutes as well.
Yeah,
so thanks, guys.
I'm glad you came on. We featured Spencer yesterday on our Channel 3 show, What's New. Incredible young guy. He's 7 years old. He's a very good travel baseball player. His teammates made a video that we put on the air yesterday that was just like, if you see it, you realize sometimes you think, oh man, this next generation of kids, what are they going to give us? When you see how behind Spencer these kids are, it gives you a great feeling in your heart. Not only, you mentioned the GoFundMe page. The GoFundMe at the time of our story yesterday was, I think, at $41,000.
Wow. Oh my God!
I know,
That's
Bull,
great.
you had said that whatever, just to help him when he gets out of the hospital. But these treatments, as you know, Bull, can be very, very expensive, and insurance doesn't cover all of it. And so every penny is going to help this young man. And you're right. In kids, typically, this is the results can be very, very good. And I know they have very high hopes for Spencer. But in the meantime, like you said, this is impacting his life, his family's life in a negative way. So yeah, go buy some lemonade. And if you can't get over to Rocky River and you want to just pop on the GoFundMe link, we have the link up on our WKYC webpage. So go to WKYC.com, look for that link. His name is Spencer, and give it, like Bull said, if it's $1, if it's $2, most of us can find our way to get something. Whatever you can afford. The community never lets us down. It really is incredible. And I know Rocky River, Bull, has really rallied around this young man. And it's interesting that you came on, because I was going to actually ask you when you came on, because I knew that he and his family are involved with the sports programs over there. I was going to ask you if you knew of him, and here you coach one of his brothers. So I'm glad you did.
It's his brother. It's one of his friends. One of his brother's friends.
Oh, okay. Is on your team.
Not one of his brothers, but the Trish Atwater, who's the matriarch of the Atwater family that I just mentioned, told me the GoFundMe just went over 50,000 today.
It's incredible.
They have surpassed. I'm on the page right now. We're dropping it in the YouTube chat. It has surpassed its goal, which does not mean they don't need more donations.
Keep giving.
Still donate.
Yep. Keep
but
giving.
They have
guys, I
officially
can't tell you. I don't know the family personally. I'm sure I'll hopefully get to know more about them tomorrow. But obviously, and fortunately, I have health insurance. But I can't tell you how. I mean, if I didn't have health insurance, my family would be broke right now. We'd be broke. There's no doubt about it. So I can't speak for the family that's going through this. I don't know what their financial situation is, but I know that that, as you said, Jay, the treatments are a fortune.
Unreal.
This is a long. Leukemia is not like other cancer. It's you could. Some people are being treated for years for this type of thing, and no matter how often the doctor says the odds are good or whatever, when your kid especially is going through something like this, it is frightening to the core. So anything we can do to help, and I'm just jumping on board. So happy that you guys did something, and I didn't know that. I'm so glad you guys did that.
I'm glad you came on.
We're all rooting for this kid.
Yeah, and so again, WKYC.com, look for the link. His name is Spencer. Go to the GoFundMe page and give whatever you can, because the family certainly can use it, and I know that they appreciate it greatly. Bull, thanks a ton, man. Great to see you. Have a good weekend. Have a good Memorial Day weekend.
You too, guys. I'll see you next week.
You bet.
All right, boy.
Yeah, that there's certain stories that you have to report on that just rip your heart out.
Yeah.
Anyone with kids.
And that's my thing.
Oh,
I tell you, anytime there's a story where kids are affected by either a disease or something tragic happens to them. Yesterday we reported on a 7-year-old girl was shot in the head in Cleveland by a sibling. And those stories were in the same show, and it just leaves you with a gut punch.
Yeah.
Like some of these kids never have a chance. And it was horrifying. And Spencer is fortunate enough to have a great family. We had them in the piece, and he's got great friends, great teammates, and really the community of Rocky River is rallying around this young man. And it's incredible. In a very short period of time, they've raised now over $50,000, and I'm sure that's going to continue to go higher.
Jay, when I hear stuff like that, and I think all three of us can relate, I tend to look back over my own life, and I know how far I've come. I know some of the things I've done. and I've been allowed second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth chances, and it's so frustrating and heartbreaking to see kids that don't get that second chance or
That's hard.
have things like unfortunate happen to them, and they don't deserve that. They have not lived life long enough to put themselves in position, to make quote-unquote mistakes that should be that consequential to them.
What's amazing is how they face these adversities with such optimism head on. It's almost never do you see a situation where a kid gets this news and begins to say, why is this happening to me? They just are so resilient. Well, does everybody die from this? No. Well, then you're saying I have a chance.
Yeah.
And they oftentimes provide optimism and hope for the parents and for the older ones around them because they are so optimistic and they believe that they're going to get through these fights, and I'm sure Spencer will with the help of the community of Rocky River and really all of the Cleveland area. So I'm glad we had him on. That was important stuff. Good stuff. So thanks, Bull, for that. You want to do Guardians here, or did we go?
We'll do Guardians, then we'll move on to some Cavs, and we'll wrap up with the top five.
Your
but
question,
we do have to talk
I liked
Guardians.
your question. Your question really got to the heart of the matter. Here we are, approaching June 1st, and that's really. I always look at June 1st and August 1st as kind of if you split it into thirds.
July 31st or the trade deadline, whatever the deadline is.
Right before August 1st. So at June 1st, you're really not, unless you're the A's or, the Rays,
right.
You're not answering any definitive questions. You're still in the mix, like with 25 other teams. But it's getting late fast, and we're getting to that June 1st post, which is kind of the third way, a third of the way through the season. And the Guardians are woefully underperforming. They are 21-28. They're losing to bad teams, which is the trademark of this team is they feast on the Tigers and the Royals and the teams in their division that have played poor baseball. But the Tigers are above them. They're 4.5 games out of first place right now. And the question, as they get ready to start a series with the St. Louis Cardinals, who have also woefully underperformed, are the Guardians the biggest disappointment in baseball this year? And I'll hold my fire. I'll let you guys start.
Well, I'll shoot mine first and get it out the way because I'm not the biggest baseball guy. I'm a casual baseball guy. But I know enough to say no, they're not the biggest disappointment. The San Diego Padres are.
Yeah.
The San Diego Padres spent a lot of money to build their roster to go compete for a World Series, and they have gravely underperformed this season, and it doesn't look like they're going to get any better.
Well, unlike the Guardians, they play in a division that has a Megatron team in the Dodgers.
Yeah.
So you fall behind the Dodgers early, and
it's over with.
You can
It's
turn
a
off the
wrap.
lights by the 4th of July.
Now, for me, I think personally the Guardians are a disappointment because this goes back to what I've said before. It seems like every single time that I personally have an expectation for a certain individual player or a team based on what they did last year, I'm let down. And I didn't see this coming, especially with them going to spend some money this offseason, getting a bat in here like Josh Bell, being around you guys. I'm getting educated on the game. I'm getting educated on who's who and how they can fit in and mesh. Me and Mikey, I know our guys are. I'm an Oscar guy. He's a Will Brennan guy. They've underperformed. And so it's just personally, they've let me down, but I wouldn't say they're the biggest disappointment in baseball at all.
Jay, what do you think?
Yeah, I want to look up the Padres payroll as you were talking, and I think I have to agree with Earl.
It's massively bigger than-
$250 million.
Yeah, compared to the
And-
Guardians, are what, under $100 million?
Yeah, well under, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, and their Padres are 4 games under 500 still. So yeah, I think San Diego probably is the biggest disappointment, but the Guardians are on the list. I think a lot of people expected possibly guys would regress when you talk about all the rookies that they had last year. But the point I've been trying to make for the last week or so, it's not the young guys for me. It's the big money guys. It's the guys that they invested big money in. It's Jimenez, Bell, and Zunino. It's those three, the big contracts that they handed out over the winter. How much different does this lineup look if they're producing, if they're playing at the level that we thought they were? Jimenez, I think, is going to be fine. I said yesterday, you don't go from being a 7-WAR player to not being able to hit a curveball. Like, it just doesn't happen. He'll if you remember a couple years ago, Jose Ramirez went through an awful stretch, and he pulled out of it.
It happens.
Yeah, I think Jimenez will be okay. But Bell has just been a disaster of a free agent signing. And
what was he, $13 million?
Yeah, and it's 16 And he's got an option for next year. So if he doesn't get this thing turned around, he can just pick up the player option, and now it's a 2-year anchor.
And they're
on
stuck
him.
with him.
And it feels hypocritical for me to crush him for it because I liked the signing at the time, so I can't turn around now.
I'm with you. I thought it was a brilliant signing.
But the fact is, at this point, it's a miss.
He has not been Edwin Encarnacion.
No, not at all. And so you worry about, Chris Antonetti and his crew have talked multiple times about we can't miss on free agents. And right now, it's a miss. And Zunino at $6 million is a miss.
Huge
and
miss.
I just don't know how much longer you can hold on to that rope thinking that it's going to turn. At some point, I know you don't want to go to the Dolans and say we have to eat that $6 million, but if you're trying to salvage a season, and the point I tried to make yesterday was it's not just Bo Naylor's not going to save the season. It's not just one move. But I think you take one day of drama where you say you DFA Zunino, you trade Rosario, you put Arias at shortstop every day, you put Naylor behind the plate every day,
and you're all in on kids again.
But it's something to try and shake this up because right now it's not working. It goes back to what we said about the Browns. When what you're doing isn't working, you have to change, and it's not emotional. G. Bush knee-jerk reaction at this point. It's 2 months into the season.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with you. By Memorial Day weekend in June 1st, you are what you are. And the standings can change. You can say it's early in the season, and that's true. But by June 1st, you pretty much are what you are, and you know what you are, and you know where your blind spots are, you know what your weaknesses are. And the Guardians have a lot right now. And I just think it takes grabbing something by the collar and shaking them. And to me, the shake is you're not going to get anything for Rosario of value. You're going to get a single A prospect, middling prospect at this point, or middle reliever, a reliever that's not great, but it's more just clearing the path to get Arias those everyday at bats. They felt like Arias could play right field. Maybe Tyler Freeman can play right field. I don't know, but they love
What's happened to Oscar Gonzalez?
He's not even hitting well in AAA. Like, he's just fallen completely off the face of the earth.
And that was my biggest fear was of all the guys.
And he was the guy.
He was the guy.
As we talk Browns, high ceiling, low floor. He was that guy.
And it's the plate discipline.
High ceiling, low floor.
He's swinging at bad pitches,
chases.
so he's not going to see good pitches.
Yes, it's chasing bad pitches. And Brennan's been a disappointment. All that is true.
Yeah.
But to me, it's the guys that they invested the big money in. And this lineup looks a lot different if the guys that they gave big dollars to are playing to the level that they expect.
Now, we talked earlier about how in the NFL, you've got 3 games every year that are just losses, and you got 3 wins every year that are just wins, and then the other 10, it's what
Determine
you
your
do
fate.
in the clutch.
Yeah.
And last year, everything went right.
Yes.
From day one through the last game of the season, they were sprinkled with magic fairy dust.
And that happens sometimes.
Sometimes it happens. They stayed healthy. This year, before they break spring training, McKenzie's out for 2 months.
Yep.
He's your number 2 arm. All of the little things that went their way last year are going against them this year. Clase has not been good. I know people say, well, he's either the league leader or among league leaders in saves.
He hasn't been. He's been off by that much.
He's been off.
Hammy told us that the other day.
His velocity isn't there.
Yeah.
And I was there the other night, and he successfully came in and they closed it out. But I think he threw all sliders and cutters. I didn't see a single fastball. I didn't see anything that was in the 100-mile-an-hour range.
Yeah.
And in Major League Baseball, that threshold is over 99. When you start to get triple digits, that's where guys are swinging and hoping. Mm-hmm. And he's not throwing that way this year. So he's just off a little, and it just takes all of these guys to be off a little. Ramirez is trying to do his part, but if the guys that were brought in to protect him aren't hitting, guess what? He's still not seeing premium pitches.
And if you remember, Ramirez got off to a historic start last year.
He did.
April and May.
And cooled dramatically.
He was playing at MVP historic levels those first couple of months. And he's been fine. I mean, Hosey's not the problem with this team, but he's not playing. He's not having.
Yeah, he's not the problem.
He's not having the unfathomable start that he did last year. Where
right.
So
now,
all that plays into
the answer to the question is, I think you guys both got it right. The Padres are they're just a massive disappointment. We're crying because we brought in a $16 million guy, and what is Zunino? $6 million?
$6 million.
So we spent basically $24 million on 2 guys that are laying eggs.
Yeah.
Imagine if you're the Padres right now, and your payroll is $250 million, and you're looking up at the Dodgers, and that lead might as well be 10 games right now.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be hard to catch. They're not going to be a team. I still am not sold on the Twins. I'm just
I'm
not.
not either. I'm
This
not
division is
Division's
the worst
terrible.
division in baseball, and it's not even close.
If I was thinking about this morning driving in. If I was Tampa, I would be furious that you're stuck in the East.
I would too.
Like,
I
you
would
know,
too.
like here you are. You talk about punching up. That franchise
unreal.
punches up every year. Imagine if Tampa was in the Central, which frankly,
Running away with it.
geographically, I understand why they're in the East. Payroll-wise, they should be in the Central.
Yeah.
And
They're built like a Central team.
yeah,
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a
what-
real
what's-
good point.
This is what pisses me off the most. Last year, the Rays, I think, were 29th in home runs, and the Indians or Guardians were 28th. They were among.
That is factual, yes.
Okay. The Rays are leading baseball in home runs this year.
yeah.
It's unbelievable what this team is doing.
And a lot of it is just I mean, I think Yandy, last I looked, Yandy had 11. Remember,
He's been unreal. He
Yeah.
finally found his power stroke.
yeah, and Taylor Walls has come out of nowhere this year. He was
Everybody's hitting home runs.
Yeah,
Everybody.
but they've got a lot of young guys. Going back to the Cavs conversation I was talking about yesterday, they had a lot of young guys that just sort of hit at the right time. They all
Right.
just popped at the same time.
Yeah.
And now you're seeing how that translates in baseball with
It's
the
insane.
Rays.
Meantime, the Guardians have 30 home runs.
28 because they were off yesterday. Or no,
No,
it
they
was
have
30.
they
It was
have 30. They do have 30.
That's
Last,
terrifying.
last I checked, they had 28 and 17 were solo shots. 17 to 28 were solo.
I mean, that is just that is to me that is absolutely terrifying. All of that being said, McKenzie is ready, so he'll
Yeah.
be up soon.
Too bad he can't hit a curveball. He only throws.
Yeah, I know. But the rotation gets notably better. Now you've got 2+ front of the rotation guys, legitimate front of the rotation guys. They've got decisions to make. Please, Zach?
Oh, there is no decision on Plesac.
Done.
Yeah.
I'm done. To be quite honest, Cal, it's been a big disappointment.
Yeah.
Big
has.
disappointment. And you've got guys in the wings. You've got Bybee. You've got Logan Allen.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Gavin Williams, who's throwing ridiculous numbers down in
Right.
minor league baseball.
Right.
Like, I know you don't want to punt on the season, and I don't think it is punting on the season, but a shot across the bow is necessary.
Yes.
Now, Tito is notoriously patient, and notoriously, his patience have paid off.
Yes.
His teams typically start slow.
Yes.
So does he have a switch that he can find? He might, but I don't know at what point you say, okay, enough is enough, it's time to turn the page.
This feels different than a normal slow start only because the power has been so atrocious. And I don't know I don't know if that switch flips because we saw it last year. And if anything, it feels like it's regressed from where it was last year.
It's way, I think they're the lowest scoring team in baseball.
So that it's hard to look at this at this point. And for a while, I was in it's early. They'll figure it out. It's early.
But it's starting to get
Tito
late.
teams always struggle in April. It's fine. But we're at the point now, we're to the June 1st mark of you are what you are. And this just feels different. And I think internally, to them, this feels different than a normal slow April, May, whatever. This is different.
To all of this discussion, I think the team that's in tonight, starting a series, the Cardinals are also a big disappointment. They've shown signs of life recently, where the Guardians, I can't remember the last time they won a series.
I mean, that's kind of terrifying to look at Cardinals, Orioles, and then although they did play the Twins well when Minnesota was in town, I think they took 2 or 3, didn't they? And
They did.
I kind of thought at the time like maybe this is the start.
I did too. I thought that was going to be the spark
And it
that got
wasn't.
things going. But I will say this. When you look at this stretch, if they continue dropping 2 out of 3, which is what their MO has been all year, if they lose 2 or 3 to the Cardinals, 2 or 3 to the Orioles, 2 or 3 to the Twins, now you're likely not 4.5 out, you're probably 7.5 or 8 out, and you're just barely to June 1st. That's when I'm reaching for the panic button. I'm not yet. I've identified it. I know exactly where it is.
We know where the codes
and
are.
I got twitchy finger, and it's ready. But I'm not reaching for it yet. But if they drop 2 of 3 to all of these 3 teams, it's going to be really, really difficult to try to dig out of that hole. And what's really disappointing to me is the Chicago White Sox, who should have been much better but haven't been, they're a game behind the Guardians, and they have been horrendous until recently.
And Hammy pointed out when he was on with us, hey, I know what the record is, but there's too much talent in Chicago, and he's not ready to sell on them yet. And
I'm not either.
I agree.
They still, to me, when you look at their pitching
They
staff,
should be 10 games up in the division. Giolito and
I agree.
Cease and Kopech.
And they scare me.
Kopech was dominant yesterday
Yep.
and might be starting to put it together.
And I don't know how much of this, every one of their pitchers looked good against us, and I don't know how much of that is we just can't hit our weight.
Yeah.
Or how
right.
much of that is the White Sox staff. But I look at the White Sox, and they're going to get healthier in their bullpen.
Yep.
And you just start looking at them saying, geez, they still may be at 5.5 out. They still may be the team to beat.
Eloy's coming back. Eloy Jimenez will be
Yes.
back probably within the next week.
Right.
Liam Hendricks is coming back. He had his own cancer battle. He's coming back within the next couple of weeks.
And he could be a rallying cry for this team,
Absolutely. So that could still be the team. We keep talking twins. I'm kind of with Hammy. The Sox aren't
Are
dead.
you now starting to give serious thought to you got to deal Bieber before the trade deadline?
I think he will be.
Yeah.
I think
And honestly, to me,
regardless of how this plays out, I think he's probably
see,
gonna get dealt
I
before
disagree.
July.
I just think that if you're in it, and they'll know by July 1st, I think give them another month.
Yeah.
And if they haven't turned it around by then, I'm trading Bieber immediately. I don't even wait to the trade deadline.
Yeah.
But the thing of it is, once that Bieber trade happens, to me, I can't envision this team making any kind of playoff noise without a Bieber at the front of the rotation.
I guess my counter to that would be Gavin Williams would be up the next day.
Well, you're asking a lot of these
You
kids.
are. You're 100%
And
are.
I
Yes.
I have faith in them, and Bybee and Allen have proven that they can get guys out.
Yeah.
But it's June.
Yep.
It's May.
Yep.
We know Bieber can get guys out in September and October.
If McKenzie comes back and throws the way we expect McKenzie can throw,
He could be your ace.
he comes up one spot. Gavin Williams comes up. You've got Bybee, Logan Allen, and Williams, I think, are the future now. Espino, I don't think you can count on at this point.
No.
He's out quite a while.
Mostly the year, right? Most likely.
14 to 16, yeah.
Yeah.
Like all
No.
of this year and half of next year before he throws a ball, I think.
Yeah.
Like
that's
it's serious what he's
disappointing.
got. It may, we're not at that point yet. It may alter. He may ultimately have to become a reliever after this. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if he'll ever be the same pitcher after this.
It's a shame too because he had such promise and
Such
they
high,
were really.
and this is the point that Bull and I went round on yesterday. I think part of the roadblock that they've had with trying to make deals is everyone was asking for Bybee, Espino, and Williams, and the Guardians were hesitant to trade them. And the issue you run into is, well, what if you say, okay, we won't trade Espino, but we'll give you Williams? You're rolling the dice. If you lose Williams, and now you've just lost Espino.
That's why you hold all three.
That's why you hold all
Yeah.
three, and it really is an impediment then to the deals that you can make because teams are saying, well, if we don't get one of those guys, it's no deal.
and now you're likely going to get nothing for Espino. The ship has sailed.
Right. Well, and maybe he can make a full recovery from this, but you've just pushed that timeline back to where he's not even in the conversation right now.
Right. They got to win. They got to start now. I'm going to the game tonight. I'll be screaming my lungs out for them, doing my part. It's got to happen soon, or it's going to be a wrap.
So we know if the Guardians lose tonight, we know who to blame.
It's
it is
my fault.
officially
I
Jay
didn't
Crawford's
yell
fault.
loud enough.
Will you be in
it
the
is-
dugout suite and on camera the whole time?
I
like you were
was
last year?
Monday. I'll be in the I'll be in another suite up top this time.
No
around.
FaceTime for Jay tonight.
No, and I like it that way. When people are texting me stuff, because my reactions are pretty, I wear them on my sleeve. And I had friends telling me, saying, oh, yeah, I just read your lips and you weren't saying funny.
Well,
Like,
Big
that's your
Baller
boy,
Jay, it's
Jay.
his choice of suites at Progressive Field. We're going to move on to next time. We're going to combine our two basketball topics into
Look
one.
at
and
that.
It starts
Jay
with
got
a
the
fan
shooters
video.
bounce off the chair
I
and the
got it,
pillow.
man.
Good
I
luck
got it.
then for the Guardians tonight. But we're going to start with the fan video whenever we talk. Fan Videos is brought to us by PCC Airfoils. You're looking for a job with career advancement and great benefits? Well, PCC Airfoils is a leading manufacturer in Northeast Ohio. All locations of PCC Airfoils in Eastlake, Menor, Wickliffe, and Minerva are hiring for all positions starting at $18 and up, plus full benefit packages, paid time off, and a signing bonus. You can apply online at precast.com/careers to learn more. So I was scrolling through Twitter yesterday. I saw this video from Cam Magruder, who makes a bunch of fan parody videos, and this one's about the Cavs. I thought it encapsulated how the entire Cleveland fan base feels after that Knicks loss. We'll spend 2 minutes reacting to that. We're going to play it, and then we'll talk about the Celtics possibly being the first team to ever come back from a 3-0 hole in the Eastern Conference Finals. So, Steve, I'm going to hit the play in the video. Y'all enjoy. This is pretty funny.
Knicks were such a bad matchup for us. We should have never cut Kevin Love. I actually thought we had a chance after game 2. It's almost like a veteran presence would have helped us in the playoffs. Imagine if LeBron plays Kevin Love in the finals. Donovan Mitchell wants to go to New York. Ain't no way this man about to pull a KD. We're not trading Donovan Mitchell. He just got here. Relax. We really got rid of Kevin Love for nothing. If you look at the 2019 draft, Darius Garland's the best player. I like Evan Mobley. He's just so raw still. Once Evan Mobley gets some more playoff experience, he's gonna be a beast. Mobley shut down Julius Randle all series. Evan Mobley's the youngest player ever to get NBA All-Defensive First Team. How haven't we fired JB yet? I'm glad Mike Brown won Coach of the Year. I don't get the JB hate. He's still so young. We need shooters. I need Jared Allen to get some offensive moves. We were not a better team before the Donovan Mitchell trade. What are you talking about? We probably would have made the playoffs even if we didn't do the trade. There's so many good coaches out there. It's not a coaching issue. It's a roster issue. We couldn't buy a bucket after game 2. We have no depth because of the Donovan Mitchell trade. I would never let someone know the lights were too bright for me. I have more post moves than Jared Allen. If Kevin Love never got injured, this year will look so different. Robin Lopez sucks. We need some backup center. It's a coaching and roster issue. I can't believe we lost like this, man. We would have had home court advantage. Where was Lamar Stevens this series? Give Okoro some time to develop. We're not trading. If I see Jalen Brunson buck his head back one more time, I'm gonna slap someone. No one is off limits except Darius Garland and Mobley. We really won 51 games just to lose 4-1 in the playoffs? We gotta figure something out. It was a wasted season, man. Rest in peace, Nick Gilbert. We got the talent. We just gotta put it together. There's always next season, right?
I saw that. I thought it was pretty funny. Give
Brilliant.
a second to react here, and then we'll talk a little Eastern Conference Finals.
I thought it was dead on. I said every one of the things that he said in that video at least twice. At least twice.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Yeah, he's got his finger on the pulse of Cavs fans.
I feel the same way.
Is he a local guy? Is he
He's a national guy.
He's national. He does stuff for Cowboys.
Yeah.
Any team. He does like those kind of fan parodies.
That was really good.
Yeah,
for not being
who's
someone
the woman
embedded.
that does the NFL videos.
That's Annie Ager.
Annie
Yeah.
Who tried to
Annie
get
Ager.
on,
Yeah.
and
We couldn't get her? She's too big
She's
for
big,
us?
big time, big time.
Wow.
Talked to Steve Becker, but we got the hard denial on that.
I'm really disappointed in that. I thought for sure we could have got her on. Yeah, he's really good and funny, and everything he said, I know. You know, it's the knee-jerk statements, but when you put them all together like that pretty much encapsulates the whole season. The Kevin Love. We traded Kevin Love. We got rid of Kevin Love for nothing. And now he's
good.
one win away from
the
NBA Finals, which, by the way, is proving a little more difficult than we thought it might. Do we have time to talk about the Celtics?
We do. We have 9 minutes before we have a special top 5 to finish the show.
Okay, yeah, we got to do the top 5
We
today.
got to do the top 5, but
Are the Celtics going to pull this off?
Miami better win this tonight. This is Miami.
I agree. If Miami loses Game 6, there's no way the Celtics aren't going to the NBA Finals.
I don't think they're going to pull it off. I don't think they got it in them. To
The
me,
Celtics?
I don't think the Celtics got it in them.
Really?
I think the Celtics are a mentally weak team. I think they're a very talented team, but mental toughness to me plus talent makes you elite or a great team. I think Jason Tatum disappears too much. I think Jaylen Brown disappears too much. We sit here, we use that term him a lot, right?
Yeah.
Everybody will be on social media talking about Jason Tatum as him because he can go get 50. Everybody talk about Jaylen Brown as him, and together, like, you know, they have this elite core. And I think we got to be careful with classifying certain guys as him. I could tell you who is him, Jay. Jimmy Butler is him. Jokic is him. Giannis is him. LeBron is him. Steph Curry is him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot of these guys, like the Devin Bookers, the Donovan Mitchells, even though people don't want to admit it, the Jason Tatums, the Jaylen Browns, they are very, very good players.
Derek White was him last night.
Yeah, but it just seemed like, man, when you're that talented of a team and you're that inconsistent, to me, it screams that you're not mentally focused and you're not mentally tough. And I can't trust you to win 4 games in a row knowing that those inconsistencies have shown.
That's a very valid point.
Have shown all season long.
Jay,
So-
I'm of the mindset that when a team figures something out in a series, that now it's all in Miami's court. Now you have to adjust.
Yeah.
And they didn't through last night, but I have confidence that Spoelstra, Pat Riley, and the brain trust there will figure it out for tonight. This is their Game 7, though.
Yeah.
I believe it. I think
it's not tonight. Just what you kept saying.
Sunday.
Tonight
It's
is
Sunday.
Later in the weekend, not tonight.
Jaylen Brown said, "Don't let us win another one."
Yeah.
And I think I think Game 6 is Game 7 because you're not beating Boston in Boston for a Game 7. But I do think that Miami can figure this thing out. I think they've got the right people there to do it.
Miami's a terrible home crowd. That's one thing that concerns. It's a terrible arena.
Right.
Now, in fairness, I've never been there for a playoff game, but just in general, that when you think of like raucous arenas to go walk into, Miami ain't in the top 10.
Right.
So that plays to Boston's advantage a little bit because crowds 100% make a difference in settings like this.
Right.
Boston has the better roster. I agree with you. I take Butler over anybody else on the floor, but then I would take Boston's 2 through 6,
Their
7.
depth is incredible.
Yeah. But coaching, I would side with Miami, and that 100% matters.
They had
in
4
this
guys
series,
over
too.
20 last night.
Yeah, they did.
So
Yeah, they did.
this is hard for me. I go back. I didn't get to see the game last night. I was busy doing other things, so I didn't get to watch that, and I haven't seen very many of the highlights.
I don't think it was ever really a game.
Yeah.
You know,
I'll go back to 2016 in the Cavs, and I think I've shared a little bit about this before when they went up 3-1. And I remember talking to Kevin Love in the locker room and said, if you can get 5, there's no way you're losing 6 at home. And he said, no chance. And they blew the Warriors out in game 6 at home.
Right.
They smoked them. And I said, I'll take my chances with that mother bleeper in a game 7 over everybody else on the floor. And Kevin said, absolutely. So it came down to winning that game 5. And when Steph threw his mouth guard at the end of 6, I told everybody, like,
they're done.
Cavs are winning this. Like, this is happening. The Warriors are unraveling. They never thought that they would be in this position. I think Draymond or someone even said that. We were doing media before Game 7, and one of the Warriors players said, we never imagined that we would have to be here for a Game 7, but here we are. And I thought, well, then you're not going to win. And I just wonder if Miami is in that mindset. At least this one's at home. But I wonder if Miami's in that, man, we never thought we would have to be here. Up 3-0, we never thought we'd have to be back for a game 6.
Well, you know, it's interesting you said that because some of the guys said, well, everything we've done has been hard this year.
Yeah.
We haven't done anything the easy way. Going up 3-0 would have been, that's the easy way.
Right.
And now all of a sudden, I think they're looking at this too as this is our chance.
Yep.
We lose this game, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You're going to Boston, you're coming home with an L.
Yep.
I just think that, and they've got to go into this looking at it that way.
just to both of you all's point, I think the next game, this series is over because of everything you just alluded to. I think that the Miami Heat is probably the best coached team in the NBA, and I think that Jimmy Butler is the right leader for this situation. To your point, everything has been tough for them all year. You know, everybody keep throwing out, well, Miami's an 8th seed. Miami is not your normal 8th seed. This is a franchise that's an 8th seed with a legit superstar with a coach that has championship pedigree. This is not your normal 8th seed just coming at you. And so I think with all those being factors, I just don't see them blowing this away because of who their head coach is.
Yeah. So they're not going to they're going to seize the moment, win game 6, and then go on to lose to Denver in the NBA Finals.
It's hard to bet against Denver.
I'm convinced that Denver's going to win.
I've been on Boston all year. I thought Boston.
I did too.
I thought Boston was going to win a title this year. But, boy, Denver is so – and I didn't watch a ton of Nuggets games this year.
I didn't either in the regular season, but I watched them a lot in the playoffs.
Like, when we get to watch them in the playoffs, I was like, man, this is a really fun team to watch.
I keep telling myself, wow, they are that good.
I watched every game of that Lakers series and thought, like, this team is so much better than I thought. I love Michael Malone. He spent a lot of time here in Cleveland as an assistant under Mike. Thrilled for him, happy for him. But they are so much better than I thought they. And I mean, Jamal Murray shot out of his mind.
True.
Yeah, he did.
And some of the shots Jokic was making against the Lakers.
He made the left-footed fallback 3 where they first called it a 2 and then they changed it to a 3.
Just ridiculous.
Like how are you making that shot? Even Anthony Davis was like, what?
Oh, there was a couple times LeBron was like.
I know. Like, you can't be serious.
I can't even call that skill. Like, that's just luck. It really
but
is.
he does
you know
that,
what though?
like,
When you do, if you do it once, it's luck. But he's done it a number of times where I'm like, he must practice these fall off one-footed 3-pointers.
He is. I've said it before. If he showed up for a pickup game, he'd be the last dude.
I agree.
At the All-Star game, he was the last dude picked.
And they learned their lesson.
Oh,
that boy be coming from back here with it like he be a quarterback.
You know what drives me crazy though?
That's how I used to shoot, and I can never make shots.
So, you know how hard it is to do that?
Who drives me crazy is the friggin' Jokic brothers and Patrick Mahomes brothers.
Oh,
it's like,
I know.
sit down and
stop showing them. Number one, stop showing them.
Y'all ain't done nothing.
I know.
Shut up and sit down.
I can't stand
You have
it.
nothing to
But
do
you know
with
what?
what they're doing.
I blame the networks
for giving them oxygen.
I don't know if you guys probably don't remember this. Bubby Brister was a quarterback.
Oh, the
for
Steelers
the
quarterback.
Steelers.
And his mom and dad.
They showed his parents. Like every quarterback has parents in the stands.
Yeah.
But for some reason, NBC fell in love with Bubby
It
Brister's
was
parents.
the Broncos playoff game, wild card game, I think.
They, like,
I know
had
exactly what you're talking
Brister
about.
parent cam.
Yeah.
After
and
every
mom
throw.
was like this after every hit.
Just don't. Stop it.
Yeah.
First of all, it's got to be uncomfortable for them. They don't want to,
Well, the parents probably didn't want to be. The brothers love it.
Yeah, they
The
do love
brothers
it. They love
love
it
it.
way too much, which
Yeah.
is why I think the network should just stop. Put
Totally
a ban
agree.
on it.
Nobody wants to see them.
No, they're not. You're right. They haven't done anything. They're not the story. All these guys have brothers that are at the games. All of them have friends, parents that are at the games. Why they decide to get their teeth into certain players'
Yeah,
parents
I don't
or
know.
friends or brothers, it really is
a little
annoying.
wild.
It's
While
gotta
we're speaking
stop.
of Jokic real quick, this tweet is the most accurate tweet of Nikola Jokic there ever is in the history of the world. This is from Worldwide Wob. If you guys don't follow, he just tweets about NBA stuff. He's
Panic
got a massive
Walrus.
following. But this is so spot on. It is incredible. And this reminded me of that shot in game 4, game 3, whatever it was, that step back. But if you can't, Jokic will dribble around looking like a panicked walrus on sand before tomahawking some shit over his head, which ends up being wetter than water. It's truly majestic, and I don't know if there's a better way to explain his play style or what he does on a nightly basis
That is perfect.
than that exact tweet.
That is absolutely perfect, because he does. You think he has you right where he wants you when there's 1 second left on the play clock and he's 2 feet behind the 3-point line. Like, oh, here comes the dagger. It's like Steph Curry-like.
I remember I've been to multiple Cavs Nuggets games where you look at the end of the game and you look at his line and it's like 38, 16, and 12, and you're like, where the hell did that come from? Like,
This is the mistake I made. I said he's Kevin Love 20 years later when Kevin was in Minnesota, or 15 years later. His Love would gather these numbers because nobody else was doing it. So he was, putting huge numbers up every single night, points, rebounds, and I thought that that's what we had going on here. But he's doing it against the best talent in the
He's
world
so much better.
on the biggest stage, and
Yeah.
Kevin never did that.
No.
The Timberwolves sucked.
No.
And, he was never in that moment. But what he's doing is otherworldly, and I think they got the MVP wrong this year. I do. I think
they
they got the
definitely got it
MVP
wrong.
wrong.
Yeah.
They definitely got it
He
wrong.
should have been a 3-in-a-row MVP winner.
Go back to game 1. Anthony Davis played lights out, I thought, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they're going into the half, and Joker hits this crazy three,
Yep.
and Anthony Davis just turns around and looks at him like,
He literally did. He looked at him and was like, did you just make that?
so, it's just one of those situations, man. Like, that very great player. I've enjoyed watching him throughout the playoffs. We don't get to see Denver play much, and I totally underestimated how good this team was, the chemistry with this team. They've been together for a while, and so they've really earned everything along the way. And I'm happy to see them get to the finals.
Yeah, I am too. First time in 47-year team history that they've made it to the finals.
I saw an interesting thing the other day about which 15 do the Nuggets retire because Carmelo wore 15.
Yeah, I know.
It's not even close.
Yeah.
It's got to be Jokic.
Yeah, I
Yes.
mean, Jokic
Yeah.
is better.
But it's interesting.
I want to see him do it for longer, but I think at his peak, particularly when you looked at how Melo's playoff success was non-existent.
Yeah.
He's been in Denver longer than Melo.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about for the career, though. I still look at Melo's career right now if I'm judging the two players' careers.
It's not even close. Jokic
No,
is better right now.
He's a better player. But
His career's better right now.
His total career. You're saying
Right
his
now.
total
Yes.
career right now
It's not
is
even
better.
close.
I would agree with Mike.
Yeah,
It's not
see,
even
I don't.
close.
I
I
don't
agree
think
with
so.
Mike.
I just need a player to do it for a long time. I don't want a 4-year burn hot stretch. I want more than that.
No, I'm
I
with
just need
Mike.
a little more. Now, my point was he is better right now, than Melo was for any point in his career, and particularly when you look at the lack of playoff success for Melo, like you can't even begin to put him into the discussion. But God, you got to do it for 10, 12 years, don't you?
I think Jokic is better. I take Jokic right now.
If he ended his career right now,
Better career than Carmelo. Yep.
Are we talking NBA or overall basketball career?
NBA.
Okay, NBA, cool, I'll give you that. Overall basketball career?
I mean, Carmelo had the title in Syracuse.
Yeah, but he got 3 or 4 Olympic medals as well.
I mean,
yeah. But I look at that like if you could have won an Olympic medal if you'd have taken his spot on those teams.
Fair enough.
that's a great point. That's a great point.
I mean, I'm not really giving him a lot of credence for those. It's not like he carried any team.
They look good
to a
on his
gold medal.
resume. They look good on his resume.
No, they look great.
They
on
didn't
his
get him into
resume.
the Hall of Fame.
Oh,
But-
I mean, anybody goes in the basketball Hall of Fame.
Basketball Hall
I'm
of
still
Fame.
looking. I'm still looking at Melo. He came in.
Melo played
with
his best
LeBron.
MVP finish ever was 6th. He never finished in the top 5 at
I know,
MVP.
but-
Jokic has been
Two-time
a two-time
winner.
MVP.
How
winner.
many years has Jokic played in the NBA?
10. He was drafted a decade.
Oh,
ago.
I thought it was 6. I thought it was
no,
6
no,
or
no.
7.
He's been in the league.
This
He's
is
been,
his 10th
10
season?
years? That's
yeah,
crazy.
It's been 10 years.
Someone made a point to me the other day, and this is a good point.
Last
you
point,
might
we got to
know.
get the top 5.
Okay.
We got to get top
Someone
5.
said he's a lot closer to the end than we think because European, like the body style that he has, he's not going to be a
And the
LeBron
size.
James.
Right.
He's not
Yeah.
going to be this force of nature
Right.
at 38 in the league.
Right.
Because that body type tends to break down quick and like overnight.
Yeah.
So
I was
burn hot
also
while
wrong.
you can get it.
I was wrong. This is his 9th season. I apologize.
Yeah, I didn't
It's
think
his
he'd been
ninth
in
season.
for.
My bad. My
Okay,
bad.
but still.
All right.
Melo had what, 18?
He
19.
didn't play this year, and he played 19, so 18. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
All right, we have a top 5 we have to get to. I wanted to give a little more time, but we will do what we can with this. It is Earl's rookie debut on the set, but he's been a producer here for a long time now. So these are 5 things that you may not know about Earl that you need to know about Earl if he's going to become a more consistent contributor on the panel for the Ultimate Cleveland Sports
I can't
Show.
wait to hear these.
This is new to me too.
Earl's already a veteran because I put this in the rundown last night like an idiot, and he didn't even read it. So guess what? I
was at
like
work.
the other veterans of the panel, Earl is already ignoring what I say.
Hey,
So first and
this
foremost,
veteran looks at the rundown every night when you send it out.
who does?
This
You do.
veteran.
Yes, and yeah, you
I
have
mean-
your own notes, and I appreciate that. Number 5, Earl is a massive WNBA fan, and somehow, and I don't want to butcher it, so Earl, I'll let you explain. You have some sort of connection. I believe it's half cousin of Naz Hillman.
Listen, Naz Hillman is the GOAT. You've done a story on her.
I have.
One of the things I did when I first got a chance to be on 92.3 The Fan is I hyped her up. She went to Gilmore Academy.
Right.
She a great player, and I felt like she never got her due. I used to think that she was going to be. I boldly said she would be the number 1 overall pick of the draft.
Right.
That didn't happen. She went 2nd round. I remember being at an airport and just tweeting about it the entire time. Great player. She's having a pretty good season so
Good.
far, coming off the bench for the Atlanta Dream. She had 13 and 4 the last
What
game.
has spurred your interest in the WNBA?
She did. I've been watching her since she was in high school, and I noticed that the more that I watched her, the more I fell in love with the women's game.
Right.
Because they don't have these same resources as the men. I think that you get a more competitive game.
Yeah.
I think that you get raw play. And there's
Right.
nothing that's no laziness to it, no anything like
Right.
that. Then you start watching the college ball game, and
Oh, the college game's addicting.
yeah, like Anthony me and McNuggets will sit upstairs and talk WNBA.
All right. So
All
he
day.
loves the WNBA. Number 4.
He alluded to this earlier. Earl can't play basketball, but
That was
baseball
terrible.
was his first love, and I believe, Earl, if my memory is correct,
Baseball.
that Ken Griffey Jr. was your favorite player.
Ken Griffey Jr. was my favorite
Wow.
player. So
Were you lefty?
I can say this, right? Because it's me. And I know Bull was hesitant, right? I'm the only black man that can't dribble between his legs. so once I knew I couldn't get the dribble on between my legs and I couldn't shoot, the Cartwright thing, that's how I used to shoot when I was
Yeah.
in school. And
So they
everybody
said, you
used to
better
talk
pick up
about
on
it.
this.
So you better.
So you can't play basketball and you like NASCAR.
Yeah.
You got some white.
Your
in you.
black card is in danger.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shirley
You're
Temple
more
is
white than you think.
Shirley Temple is my grandmother's first cousin. Fun fact.
Look at that.
Fun
There you go.
fact.
That
I
is
knew it.
awesome.
I
That
knew.
is not on the list, but I will add it.
I
That
knew
is-
that was in there somewhere.
All right. Number 3.
All right, number 3. This one you guys don't even know. So we're right next to the parking garage, as you guys know.
Yeah.
As an employee of Channel 3 here, we get to park in the parking garage. And Earl, I hear him laughing already. For the first 8 months he worked here, Earl refused to park in the covered garage and would park out front, which is a further walk to our office and our studio than parking right next door.
Why would you refuse to park underneath?
I just fell in love with parking outside, like being outside. I just
I do
didn't-
too. It's dank when you have to pull into the garage. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, your experience with sunlight for the day is over.
Yeah,
and that
so
sucks.
It was just one of those days to where if we got finished early, I like to go sit in my car for a minute. I don't want to sit in my car downstairs in the garage.
Yeah,
so.
I agree with that. Okay, that's funny.
Yeah.
But just a little FYI.
I park there every day now. I know what's been going on.
Yeah, because Channel 3 Studios isn't exactly the greatest neighborhood in downtown Cleveland. And we had, I won't say any names, but an executive here had their car stolen.
Yeah.
From the front parking lot.
I heard.
And
Next
we've
day?
got cameras, and we're a TV station. We've got
heard.
cameras everywhere. We've got a full-time security staff on duty, and we've had a couple cars stolen.
Look who our neighbors are.
I know, the FBI. And we're still getting cars stolen. Number
We got
2.
two more. Number 2, excuse me. And there should be one, but I have a special one for number 1. Earl's eldest daughter is unbelievable. She's a superstar.
Yeah, I know.
Absolute superstar.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's been bragging on her to us.
Yeah, Yana's a two-sport athlete, track
Wow.
and basketball, even better academically. I sent it in the group chat. She got selected to go to Yale for a national forum leadership committee. She's finna start Tri-C Tuesday to earn her associate's degree that she'll have before she graduates. And so
You should be proud.
I am. I tell her 2 things, every day: be great and be a leader. That's
awesome.
That's something that I try to preach to everybody that's
You've done a
around
great
me.
job.
So,
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Because she's a product of you and your parenting, and that's well done. Okay, Mikey, number 1. The number 1 thing we need to know about
The
Earl.
number 1 thing that you need to know about Earl is he is the king of snacks. So much so he literally bought all the Chex Mix out of the kitchen upstairs so no one else can get it. He has a bag of chips and candy every day sitting next to me. This man is always snacking on something literally 24
How
hours
do you
a
keep
day.
your figure, bro?
Hey man, listen, man.
Genetics?
Hey, we be in there working out now, man. I gotta
Oh,
learn how
good.
to do the whole full body. Like I do a lot of the arms and all that other stuff.
So this is all just genetics.
They got
It's
like
just
a
natural.
pregame pump going on when I walk back there. 5 minutes before the show, they're lifting weights.
Yeah, well, when he's got a camera, he's got to get swole. Pump up. Earl, great job
Thanks,
on your
man.
debut.
Appreciate
You
that.
absolutely
Appreciate
nailed it.
that.